Plato said that when you go to chemistry school, you became more alert. You may wake up, your spirit wake up, and you became a more human being. That's your character is built in a school. Classical studies, we must know Medew Netcher. You see, maybe in the future we need to know some heretic too. We need to know Medew Netcher. Achievement in Kemet for me is education. The way they think, they build, and they practice their education is very unique in history. Without education, I believe there will be no Kemet.
ATM Hotep, welcome to the Sesh channel. This is your brother Wujau Min Eb Edi Ma'at, and you are tuned in to the Sesh Mani Metal Netcher YouTube channel. For short, the Sesh. By the way, the Sesh, you all should definitely know what that means, and if you don't, shame on you, but I'll help you out. Sesh is the plural form of the word for scribe, so it means scribes. That's it. Pretty simple. So you tune in to the scribes. Sesh Ma'ani Metal Netcher as a whole, it means the loyal or true scribes of divine communication, if you want to translate the whole phrase or title out. Sesh Ma'a, that's the masculine form of the word Ma'at that everyone is familiar with. Ma'a, Sesh Ma'a Ni Medew Netcher. All right. Ma'a means something that's real, true, loyal, etc. So, that's why you hear us translated that way. But, so welcome everyone who's tuned in. This is another live stream, drive-by coming out the clear blue sky, or as I like to say, coming from the deep ocean of Nun. All right, so we just come out. So you got to make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so already. So I would imagine that anybody's tuned in now, you already subscribed, because that's probably why you're tuned in, because we don't give any forewarning around here. We need to, so I'm not saying it as if we shouldn't, but yeah, we should give forewarning. But we're gonna do that when we give more presentations and things like that. So we just kind of giving everybody some appetizers and filling things out and filtering. We're going through a filtering process because with ancient Egypt or Kemet, it can't be microwaved, and there's too much of it going on. And so there has to be like a period of time where we're filtering people who are really interested and separating them from the people who are just playing games. So that takes a little bit of time. So these topics that I bring up, the topics that are recommended to me or other panelists, we bring these to the live stream and share and just have these discussions. They end up being long because of me. I have a habit of being MC Iron Lung and making things longer than I would like, but I've accepted it. I can't do a live stream under 2 hours, because I really like the interaction and the movement of knowledge. I like to see, some feedback and some questions and everyone share information. So that period of weeding out and stuff like that, once that transpires and we get past that, then we're going to dive deeper and have some more in-depth conversations about the culture of Kemet. All right. Right now, a lot of the little silly pseudo claims and questions and redundancies and what I refer to as zombie topics, all of that is going on, and it peaks and then it goes away for a little while, then it peaks back up again, So we have to deal with it because the first impression is a lasting impression. And so some people are hearing the nonsense for the first time and they may not know any better, which I understand because somebody fresh and they're listening to somebody who may be influential or prominent in the circus community, then they may tend to just accept it wholeheartedly and then that's it. So our job is to try to bring order to the chaotic pseudo-isms that are going on. All right, so that's the spirit in which we do what we do. But I want to give a shout out to anybody who's tuned in right now. Let's see if I can take a peep at the chat. So ETM Hotel, we got Kevin MC Chill in the house. Teddy with Samrat Ra, Sanefaru, Sandiata Ada, Kakra Nzambi, Zane Montego. And if I butcher your name, I do apologize. All right, so maybe you can come on the panel and pronounce your name for me, and then I'll lock it in. And by the way, speaking of panel, the panel link is already posted. On this channel, we invite the audience to participate, and we encourage it. I wouldn't have it any other way. I want people to participate. I want the immediate feedback, the immediate sharing. So don't be afraid. Just click the link and you come on the panel. And if you have a question or you want to share something or what have you, it's all good. Vernon King, Hotep, Infinite Minds. Anybody else am I missing real quick? Aaron Edwards. And that's about it. And I'm doing all this talking. I hope you all can hear me. I see Tahuti said he caught the live stream. All right. So if somebody could confirm that you hear me, and we're just going to dive in to a very brief topic, and then really I'm opening up for discussion and questions. So I hope you all have come with some questions. So I'm giving you the heads up right now. Pull out your notepad that you wrote some notes on from other people's live streams or our live streams or some books that you have read or what have you. Go get them. Go get your notes. Come on back and let's have a discussion. In the meantime, let me open everything up to my co-panelist, Emikeraku Kinshaya Kinyi.
Hotep, abet I, ren I, imiket, aku kinshaya kinyi. And so just here as usual, getting ready for the discussion and just hoping you'll actually jump in on the panel this time.
Yes. So tonight is all about discussion and joining the panel. And I'll be able to watch the chat, but if you can, join the panel. All right, join the panel. A hotep to the brother Sean, Ini Heret Kalfani, stepped in the building. All eyes, so he's peeping in. I think Sean really likes this image right here. Yep. Sean is here for the image. All right. So, okay, listen. Tonight's show, we're going to briefly open up with what you see on the screen, the face of ancient Egypt. But really, tonight's show is really about having a discussion, dealing with some questions. So I hope you all have come with questions because we've had a couple of live streams. We've been addressing some pseudo claims made by a few people. Recently, it's been Chief X and the pseudo claims that he continues to make. You know, even after last night, someone told me that he even made another video. And as I already said, I don't care how many videos he makes at this point. No one's going to take him serious. All right, because it's really crazy. I'm gonna tell you what it's like. I'm gonna tell you what it feels like, and I think Sean can appreciate what I'm about to say, but all of you all should be able to appreciate what I'm about to say. When I see people make certain claims, the way it feels is like as if somebody makes a claim that let's see, what can I say? That blueberries is their vaccine. So it's the equivalent of somebody claiming that blueberries is their vaccine against diseases. And so what I mean by that is anybody who knows anything about the physiology of the body and how the immune system works, to hear somebody make that claim, it just makes you cringe. It is so silly and so non-reality or unreal that you don't know whether to laugh and just keep it moving or to help the person or feel sorry for the person who makes that claim. And so that's how I feel when I see some of the claims about ancient Egypt, Kemet, and everything surrounding it. So I'm telling you all this because I see it every now and then, sometimes more often than others. And that's just how it makes me feel. Because I get inboxed, I get messaged, and people ask me to address things. And then some people wonder why I don't address things like all the time. And I have to explain that to some people that, listen, I can't babysit the pseudoism. I don't have the time, And so if I can make a teaching moment out of them, then I will. But if not, then, I just have to keep it moving, So I want to take advantage of these live streams and the time now. So if any of you all have questions or want to share information, let's make good use of the time, All right. So, all right, that's my long intro. So again, I appreciate anybody who's tuned in. I see that good guy is in the house, El Macho. I'm just greeting everyone in the chat. Venice, excuse me, Blue Dev, and I still probably pronounced that wrong. Peace. Okay, so let's jump in. So again, tonight's opening topic, because like I said, I want you all to participate, is the face of ancient Egypt. And I know some of y'all looking at this picture and like, yes, Wujaru finally got it right. I told you. Wujaru. You see, I know he's been watching. I knew I was teaching him. He finally got it. He finally gets it. He made a video with the face of ancient Egypt. And he got it correct this time. Wujaru. I got to take back everything I said about Wujaru. He's cool. He's a cool guy. Oh, boy. All right, so let's jump into this. So the title of this video is The Face of Ancient Egypt, but we're having open discussions and, I say bring your own questions. All right, so this part is going to be real quick. And I just want to ask you all a question. I want to show you a couple of pictures, and then I want to ask you all a question, and I want answers, and I'll watch the chat. All right, let me get my cursor right. Okay. Now, the reason why I have this picture up is because in listening to the recent claims of some people in the circus community, this image that I have on the screen is basically what they want you to believe is a reality. This is what their people are pushing and advocating. All right. When you listen to people, and this is like the extreme. This is like, pushing it, pushing back on blackology, pushing back on Egyptomania, on the commercialization, romanticizing of ancient Egypt, et cetera, et cetera. This is the impression that they're giving and advocating. This image right here. All right. If they had it their way, this is it. This is it. This is what it would be. If it was up to these folks that are doing all this talking on the YouTube streets, if it was up to them and they had the skills to reanimate the mummies and any deceased people in tombs, if they were to recreate them, this is pretty much what they will come away with. They will have a whole museum full of these folks or this imagery. All right, so that's why I put this on the screen. But now I just want to show you all some images and ask you some questions. And I want you to just use basic logic. All right. So first, I want, if Imiket, if you could share the glyph that we're discussing. And I want to show everyone this glyph first. All right. So give Imiket a chance to get it up. Peace to Robert Rand. Peace to Brother Mathis. All right. So I want y'all to take a look at this glyph right here. Okay, can y'all see it? You all should be able to see it. Now, this glyph is often used as a logograph. All right, so let me just break down a few basics about the Sesh Netcher or hieroglyphic writing system. Okay, so number one, all of the hieroglyphs that you see are pictographs. Every hieroglyph that you see on the walls, on papyri, inside of coffins, in tombs, in temples, etc., they're all pictographs. Okay, which means it is a picture of something. Something inspired the scribes to recreate it. Okay, and they're all pictures of the natural flora and fauna and even man-made objects from the Nile Valley and the Delta. Okay, so for example, this is why you do not see a glyph of a polar bear in ancient Egypt, because polar bears didn't exist in ancient Egypt. You do not see a glyph of a tiger in ancient Egypt, because tigers are Asian cats, cat family. All right. This is why you don't see flora that didn't grow in that region, in that area, in that geographical territory. So again, number one, all of the hieroglyphs, all of the sesh, all of the teats, as we call them, and that's a FYI, each glyph is called a teat, which means image. That's what the Egyptians called it, teat, not glyph, not hieroglyphs. Everyone knows the history behind that. That's the Greek term, but they're called teat. Now, every glyph is a picture of something. So we refer to them as pictographs. That's number one. Number two, each glyph can function within the language, within the writing system, in one of three ways, okay, depending on the word that it's used in. So I'm going to name all three. So the first way that a glyph can function is as what's called a phonograph. A phonograph, as you can hear in the term phono, means sound. So a glyph can represent a sound, and it's referred to as a phonograph. All right? That's number one. Number two, a glyph can represent a word, and it's referred to as a logograph. Logo from the Greek logos, which means word. So a glyph can function as a full word. All right. And then three, a glyph can function as what people commonly call a determinative, which is a glyph that helps determine the meaning of the word in which it is a part of. Hence the nickname determinative. But they're really, on a more technical side, we refer to them as either classifiers or semantemes, because they reflect meaning, and the word meaning is the word semanteme or semantics. All right, so those are three ways that they function. So I say all of that to bring you up to this picture that Emiket is sharing with us. This particular picture or pictograph is a glyph that commonly functions as a logograph, which means it represents a word, and that particular word is her. It's transliterated as an H with a dot under it and R. Now that's one transliteration system that we use for publications. But then in the other transliteration system, it would be a capital H and an R. Okay, same thing, just two different transliteration systems. And what Emiket is doing now is she's putting the glyph on the screen when it represents a logograph. And we know this because it has a stroke under it, which is called a logographic stroke. Now, some people interpret the stroke as what you see is what you get, but that's not always true. So we don't advocate that rule. What it is that when used with when the stroke is in combination with the glyph, what it's telling you is that read this as a word. It represents a word. Okay? So the word is hair, and the word hair means face. So it's kind of obvious there, right? Because that's what you're looking at. You're looking at a face. Now the face, what's peculiar about this particular glyph though, is that almost all of the hieroglyphs and the figures, when you see them in scenes in ancient Egypt, they're all usually in profile view. Okay, profile view. It's very rare to see something straight on. This particular glyph is one of those rare occasions where the glyph is straight on. Everything is straight on except for the ears. The ears are in profile. That's why they look so pronounced. They're not like flat against the head. They're extended out to be in profile. So, and you have an oversized beard. But this is the typical glyph. Now, this glyph that's on the screen is obviously a stylized computer-generated glyph. This is what we use, when you see it in publications. Okay, fair enough. But I just want to give you what this glyph is. It's a face. Now, here's the question I have for you. And let me make sure I see the chat, because I want some answers. So, the word hair, it means face, right? But face also has a semantic scope of surface, because when you say the face of something, you're talking about its surface. That part of something that is observable. Okay? Like if you look at a cube, like, one of my favorite puzzles is the Rubik's Cube, right? And the the face of the Rubik's Cube is whichever panel that you can observe, whichever side of the cube that you can observe, the face of it. You got to turn it, and so on and so forth. So face also implies the surface. And this is also in the word Ethiops, the Greek word Ethiops, where we get Ethiopia from, or Ethiopian. People say it means burnt faces, but it also carries, burnt surface, the surface of something. So it's something that is apparent, something that is observable, something that you can look at and see, right? Face. Now, also, there's a word hair that is a preposition. It means to be on something or upon something. Upon, above, over, on top of, etc. That's hair as well. We transliterate it the same and we pronounce it conventionally the same. And as a little FYI about pronunciations real quick, our modern pronunciations should never be taken as if the way we are saying these words is the way that the ancient Egyptians pronounced these words. Okay, so I always like to make that disclaimer, because you always have somebody in the YouTube streets and say, see, that's not even how you pronounce the word and stuff like that. I'm like, how you know? We don't claim that that's how the ancient Egyptians pronounced it, and that's, we got to stop that. People got to stop acting like they're debunking claims that are never made. Okay, so now we're back. Let's get back on the highway here. So my question to you, right? This is obviously a human face. Now, the word for face, the word for something that's going to be observed, that's going to be forward facing, that's going to be like PR, observable. The ancient Egyptians, let me go back to this picture. If this is what the ancient Egyptians were like, then when they created the glyphs to represent a face, and you see this glyph, it's a prolific glyph. You'll see this glyph just like you see unks everywhere. People just don't pay attention because the word hair is written in so many places. You would think that this glyph that's supposed to be a face, a stylized face, like the average face, the face of Egypt, it should look like how these pseudo YouTube street scholars are trying to advocate and portray, right? Am I right or wrong? The face glyph, if you got an entire nation and you got some scribes sitting at a round table and they're like, hey, and they're inventing the glyphs, and they're like, and they're looking at each other and say, we need a glyph for face. What should the face look like? What should the face look like? It's and then everybody unanimously say, well, it should look like us. Shoot, it's the face. It's the face of us. So it should be us, right? And everybody's like, right. They would say, TU, okay. And then they go and create it, right? All right, so I'm gonna show you just a few pictures. I'm gonna be very brief because this is quick. I just want everybody on the same page real quick, and I'm really setting the stage for a deeper conversation later on. Like I said, these live streams that I've been doing, they serve as filters. Really, I'm just trying to filter out, see who's really interested in this stuff, because I'm not about to be wasting my time on some silly stuff. All right, so let's I'm gonna flip my screen. And by the way, I didn't even receive too many answers, so I'm going to need some, the link is in the chat to come on the panel, but I'm going to monitor the chat this time. And, I want some participation, come on now. Y'all need to wake up. Wake up. All right. So here we go. So I just have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 pictures to share with y'all, and these are random pictures. And I want you to do the exercise as well. Don't rely on me. Don't rely on me. And the exercise I want you to do is go to any resource you have to pull up ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, actual glyphs from photos of walls, temples, tombs. Obviously, not the hieratic papyri, but the formal glyphs. We're talking about the Sesh Netcher. Pull them up, and then look for the face glyph, and then just randomly take several ones and just collect them, download them. Try to get clear ones as you can. I want all of you all to do this. Don't rely on me. Okay. Now I did this. I did this, and so that's what I'm sharing with you. And I have many more, but like I said, I'm just sharing a couple of them, a few of them, and I want you all's thoughts on these. Okay, so the first instance I have, now mind you, the scribes sat at a round table. They're inventing these glyphs. They're like, okay, man, we need a hoe. Well, just draw the hoe. Seneb, the Seneb is talking to Hotep over there in the corner. Like, yeah, you gotta draw that. But anyway, so they're gonna draw the faces, right? So this is number one here. Can y'all see that? I hope y'all can see it. That's face number one. All right. It's very clear. It's original. It's very, very old. That's how it was carved. Now, obviously, the pigment and paint, it has faded. These are thousands of years old glyphs and artifacts. But this is a face here. Okay. Now, let's revisit my question again. This is the word for face. The glyph is that of a face. And if the ancient Egyptians were what these pseudo scholar YouTube street scholars are trying to portray and advocate, then this doesn't make any sense, does it? So I want an answer. Does this make sense to y'all? Does this make sense to y'all? Why would what these pseudo folks are trying to portray the Egyptian as, why would they draw a face like this that represents the face of ancient Egypt? Answer that for me. Answer, and I'm choosing my words carefully now because the whole race issue should be in the garbage can by now. Right now, I'm dealing strictly with logic. I just want y'all to think. Critical thinkers. This is how easy and how fast we can get over that hump. And I'm not seeing any responses.
I think there's some delays.
All right, there's some delay. While we're delaying, I see we got who's that? Bobby. we got Bobby Baltimore in the house.
What's up, man?
All right. So yeah, all right. I'm going through this exercise with everybody. You can see the screen too, right?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right. So I'm trying to.
Shout out to Emmy Cat.
Hotep, poo.
Yeah,
Wow.
appreciate your work. Appreciate your work. Appreciate your work, Wuja. I got my money betting on you. I got my money betting on you on the saw. Yeah, they done lost their mind. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? We've been chilling so hard. They just lost their mind, man. That mastery, yo. I've really been enjoying your shows lately, man, and just the straight up honesty. And it's funny how the clowns, right, actually think they got something. They don't. They don't understand the conversation. They don't. They never show you major universities. None of the real work. They don't understand the history. They don't understand DNA. Matter of fact, I watched video. I think you did. Was it like 2-3 years ago? It was on recombination, bro. You need to revisit that. Like, it's
Yeah.
time for us to go back, right? Because obviously nobody understands DNA now. All of a sudden, DNA is a thing you use to practice race science. That's all they doing. They practicing race science. But I don't want to mess up your class, man. This is a good one. You about to make a
All
good
right.
point. But I just want to
Hey.
tell you, revisit your recombination again. That was deep.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that.
Was it 3
But
years ago?
maybe, man, it was a minute, definitely a minute
Come
ago.
on, man.
But look, okay, so I highlighted this brother's comment. He said, "I'm going to take an hour a glyph. I'm going too slow." Now I highlighted his comment because no, it's all good because this is the glyph I'm showing. This is it. I'm showing variations of the same glyph. Number one and two, my point has already been made. All I need to do is show this one. It's done. The point I'm making has already been made. Everything I say after this, see, and that's what happens. You know, listen, y'all ever watch a boxing match and a fighter gets knocked out so fast that the fighter don't realize that they've been knocked out and they on the ground still punching?
Yeah, I'm trying to get up.
That's what happens. I'm talking about they like out and still trying to punch. Or they don't realize that the brain is not quite communicating with the legs and they still try to walk around and they stumbling and stuff. Well, this is what happens a lot. And this is what happening right now. This one picture right here has already made the point. But what happens is certain people may not realize it and they're looking for something else. All right. But let me go on to the next picture. The point here, just to be very, very clear, is that this glyph represents the face. It's the word for face, and it is a face. Remember what I said. All the glyphs are pictographs, which means that they're pictures of something. And those some things are things within the environment of the ancient Egyptians, including themselves. It's of the flora, fauna, and man-made objects. Okay? And that's what they are. So something in reality inspired these glyphs. All right? So let's go on to the next one. Here's another one. It's not the exact same as the first one, but you're going to see a theme here in these glyphs here. Okay? So that's another one. That's the glyph for hair. That's the word hair, which means face. All right? That's number 2. Let me count to 5. This for the brother Marcus. Let me count to 5. So I won't be taking a whole hour here. And I can't even find this comment to remove it. All right, I want everybody to see these glyphs clearly. This is number 2. Now, mind you, I'm gonna repeat myself. I want everybody to do this exercise. Go to whatever resource you can, whether it's Google Images, whether you go to Kemet yourself. Go on tour yourself. Take a good camera, and I want you to take pictures, clear pictures of just random walls. It doesn't matter. You're going to see this glyph everywhere, just about. All right? And I want you to bring some of these back. All right? But I'm going through a little brief portion of my collection. All right? Here's number 3. You see number 3? That's the same glyph, same word. Hair, but you got some more detail. You got some more fine lines in the hair. You got some wavy lines in the beard. And this is actually remarkable, man. That these things survive for so many years and still look good like this. Okay, so that's number 3. Here's number 4. Y'all see number 4? The word hair, face. Y'all see that? All right. That's number 4. Let's go to number 5. Here's number 5. Hair, face. And these are random. Now, these pictures are from different places and different eras of time. But I want you all to do the exercise. Don't rely on me. All right, don't rely on me. Because certain knuckleheads in the circus community will try to claim that these are Photoshop. Watch. Mark my words. Somebody gonna do a video and say these pictures, Wujaru is photoshopping. Watch. Okay, what I forgot what number is this? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, this is the 5th one. All right, let's go to number 6. Number 6. Boy, look at the nose on that one. The nose is wider than the mouth. Man, that's interesting, isn't it? That's interesting right there. The nose is wider. That nose almost goes from cheek to cheek. That nose will make Karis one look a little envious.
Well, he even got my nose, don't he?
All right. So what's that? Number
That's
six?
crazy.
One, two, three, four, five, six. All right. Here's the last one, y'all. So, brother Marcus, this is the last one. This is for you. All right. Glyph for hair, face. All right. See a little more details. This is a combination of incised and raised relief. Pretty much incised, but they have that nice 3D effect. This is some brilliant stuff. This is masterpiece work here.
That looks like Lauren Fishburne, actually.
Oh, Lawrence Fishburne. Yep,
Yeah, Morpheus right there.
yep. If you flatten the ears against the head, because the ears are in profile, the face is forward facing. The ears are in profile. But can you? Yep, like Lawrence Fishburne in Matrix. The red or the blue pill. Anyway, so that's all the pictures I wanted to share. And so now let's back up. I want to re-ask the question. If the ancient Egyptians were what people on online are trying to advocate them to be, why would they create a pictograph which all of them are inspired by things around them? Why would they create a glyph? And mind you, you have to understand what the glyphs represent in stone and why they're called divine words or divine communication. Medew Netcher, Sesh Medew Netcher, the writing of divine communication. These glyphs are meant to last for eternity. So why would they carve something for eternity of faces that don't look like them, according to the pseudo scholars on the YouTube streets? That is my question to the audience, to the chat, and that's all the pictures I have, and that's the only point I want to make tonight to open this up. But like I said, this is a Q&A live discussion. Come one, come all. Bring your own question, bring your own bag. It's all good. So let me stop sharing this image here. So yeah, I'm looking at the chat.
Before you stop sharing, somebody was asking about those lines below the neck, if they were necklaces. But I think you mentioned it before, but you might want to emphasize.
Oh, well, if they're asking about this particular picture, that's part of the beard. That's a beard that's on the face attached to the chin. So it's not a necklace. And I hope they're not talking about the crack in the wall. But yeah, the lines. If they're talking about this picture, it's part of the hair on the beard. The same way you see lines on the hair on the head on top. Okay, so hopefully that's it.
I think I've seen a lot of variation in the different faces too. Um, yeah,
Yeah, you.
the question is why would you, because you just showing, like you said, the pictures is just based off of their environment, what they see in their environment, and whatever they depicted is what they depicted, and it's crazy. I think to be honest with you, Ruja, we just got to start over from base one. So you got people overemphasize, not like actually not even understanding the capabilities of DNA. They not understanding. So this conversation was really for people who understand DNA, know how to apply it, understand archaeology, know how to apply it, understand ancient populations, know how to apply it. Then once we get that together, understand Egyptian history, know how to apply it. Just the understand Nile Valley history, understand all the terms we're using, because a lot of times the terms can actually confuse people. And I could actually show you people that they're calling what a nubiologist, a Nubianologist, but actually never even go to Nubia and study Nubia, right, in Egypt. So why do you call him that when he don't even go to Nubia, right? Why do you call it Egypt when it's not called Egypt? Why do you call Nubians Nubians? Why does the National Geographic magazine hit you with the black pharaohs? They know damn well ain't no race. And so if you got the black pharaohs, who is everybody else? What it's the terms that are problematic. The Mediterranean, the Oriental Institute, like it's like we're coming from Asia. What these terms are problematic in today's Egyptology. I'm gonna say it again. These terms are problematic in today's Egyptology. So basically, what I'm saying is they're cleaning up Egyptology. The basis of it was off the chain, and most people don't study that. So when we make certain statements, well, y'all just trying to cry racism. First of all, I just simply use the experts. I'm not saying anything. So any type of presentation I'll use some of the top-notch best schools on said subject. So I'm not saying anything. I'm a novice. I rely on the experts. I do not understand the language. I learned more about the language sitting down watching Smash Rockwell's, sitting down watching you, reading your book. You taught me how the Meta was translated. I remember them nights we spent. I don't. You just don't sleep at night, bro. Remember them nights? Crazy, right? Give me a understanding of what the meta was, how it was deciphered, who did what. I remember them hours put in. So I'm not. So if a person ever say you can't read it, right? I know that's not true. I got Emmy Keck's work. So it's people talking that talk, right? But they haven't produced any type of work on this subject right here. So it's really time to hit the reset button, bro. I think this is a fine time. Ask for y'all to really strike up the band and take your time. Like you don't gotta rush because this is these subjects right here. You actually can't run through it. Like the word remish, right? Why they use the word remish? Why? No, that's the word for people. So watch this. Let me ask you a quick question, Wuja. I
Right.
haven't watched the video on that, but you know and I know that the word remish means people. Am I correct?
Yep.
What else it mean? Just people, man, humans.
In the singular, it means man, as distinguished from a woman or a boy, and then it's also used in the plural for man, meaning both men and women, meaning mankind or human beings. To separate. See, it's always used to distinguish. So it's used as people, in as opposed to the deities and animals. And then in a narrow sense, it's used for man to distinguish from a woman and a boy. But in general, it's always used in the context of populations, always for the Egyptians and not for other groups. And so it
So
also means Egyptians.
okay, so you said something. You said it's used for populations. Is that any population or just Egyptian populations? Can it be applied to any other people besides the Egyptians? And if
Not
so, what is distinguishing factors?
the distinguishing factor is when distinctions need to be made. So when the Egyptians distinguish themselves from anybody else, they call themselves the Remage and they call everybody else by a different name. So this is why in the Book of Gates that's been so popular recently, when they show the four groups of populations, the Egyptians are called the Remech, the Asiatics are called the Amu, the so-called Nubians are called the Nehisiu, and then the Libyans are called the Chemehu. So if the word strictly meant human being or people, then all four groups would have just been called the same thing, and that's just not true. So the key point is whenever distinctions got to be made, the Egyptians always use the word remech for themselves and not the others that they're distinguishing from.
So is it any time in any Egyptian text where they have other people and they call them Ramesh?
Not when they're distinguishing themselves. No.
Okay, okay, all right, suppose they're not distinguishing themselves. Would they apply that word to other people?
In the terms of a human or a man, Sometimes
Yes.
you'll see that. Sometimes you'll see that.
Hmm.
Yep.
But it's
So for example, like you say you haven't seen the video. So last night, I think it was last night,
Mm.
we actually walked through a portion of a text in the Papyrus
Mm.
where the lower Egyptians in Lower Egypt, they were complaining that the people from the Levant or the Asiatics were coming into the country in such large numbers. They were complaining, they were like, wait a minute, these folks, these foreigners are becoming Egyptians everywhere. And they use the word remage right there.
Hmm.
yeah, and I just wanted to make it very clear, like when they say people, as in where it is inclusive of everybody, you have to keep in mind, like we said yesterday, is that, in ancient times, obviously their whole perception of people as in a global state scale wasn't there. So when as a nation, when you're talking about people must do this or people must do that, or we people, as in human beings, are like this, like that, in their own worldview, they're talking about themselves. They literally do not mean people as in other people they're not aware of in other parts of the world. So that's why in that particular text, in the text, you have to take it into context as well. So like Ujao says, when they're making a distinction between themselves and other people, they'll be used the word rematch. When they actually in the context where the rematch is a broad term to mean people, they're literally talking about things that concerns people, but in the context that they're talking about, within those limitations of who they consider people, not everybody that they haven't met in different other parts of the world in that sense.
Hmm.
Let me add on to that. Just to show everyone that it's not deep at all. We do it to this very day, right here in the United States. And I know everybody's going to recognize this when I say it. We, the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. Y'all remember that song? So we do the exact same thing. We the people. So people is not like people hear the word people and think the whole earth, you know, and that's just not true. The same reason why when you read the Bible, for example, and I said this last night, that when you see the word world or when either a Greek word or a Hebrew word is translated as world, that's not talking about the whole planet Earth. Because think about it, the entire theater, the entire stage and scenes, events and places that occur in the Bible is really in a very narrow spot on planet Earth. It's over there in the Middle East, Israel, Canaan, the Jordan River, and so on and so forth. That whole area right there is the world. And see, we don't talk like that today. We don't have that same kind of uh, speech today. But that's what that is. So when you say people, matter of fact, the word Bantu. Does anybody in the chat speak a Bantu language besides Imiket? Because if I call on if I ask Imiket to chime in, everybody gonna be like, well, nah, that's cheating. She's photoshopped. they gonna say her they gonna say her words are photoshopped.
That's funny. Boom is in the chat. I know he speaks a Bantu language.
Boom, you in the chat? All right. But while waiting on anybody in the chat, because I want somebody who speaks a Bantu language. I want you to name the Bantu language that you speak, the so-called Bantu language that you speak, and I want you to tell me what does the word Bantu mean. Okay, Boom is in the house. So Boom, what does Bantu mean? Can you break that down for us? And while you do that, we got due diligence on the panel. So welcome and it's open mic.
Peace.
If peace. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I was just enjoying the conversation. It's It's just nice to hear. It's refreshing to hear. We've been having these conversations, these circular, frivolous conversations for a long time about concerning these racial issues, um, arguing arguing inside these false paradigms, and it's just refreshing. On multiple channels, people coming out of that. It's like I'm witnessing the bar raise, and I'm kind of proud right now. Just across the board. So it's just refreshing, and I'm just here to listen and add on if I can.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that. That's you know, that's what I'm trying to advocate. I'm trying to get us past the hump because just in my studies, in my experiences, I have my views, and I think that these topics, that's why I call them zombie topics, and retarded zombie topics. Retarded meaning that it holds us back, it slows us down, and then zombie meaning that it doesn't die. These topics keep coming up and up and up and up. Same thing over and over again. Are the Egyptians gay? Are they black? Are they white? Did the aliens build the pyramids? All those types of topics are really, in the bigger picture, distractions because if we spend all our time talking about that, then we're never going to get into the nitty gritty of the culture. We're not even going to find out the genius of what these folks did. All we're going to see is just the pyramids, and then everybody going to continue to speculate how they were built. Oh man, they're really electromagnetic water plants, electrical power plants, and you're going to hear all kinds of things, but information is there, and so that's what drives me on that. But the boom. Oh, here we go. So let me put his answer up. So Bantu means people. Now y'all heard it for Boom. But Boom, I want you. Oh, he named the names. He said Shwana and Shona and Ndebele, and I probably butchered that word. Ndebele. So see, if you were on the panel, Boom, you could correct me. But Bantu means people. So there you have it. But I was hoping you break down the actual word Bantu into the Ba and Ntu. Ba being a class prefix for people or entities. And then Ntu, Ba for people, and Ntu would be an entity and things like that. So
Yeah, I can add on to that with Kiswahili anyway, where you have mtu and watu. So then you have the prefix, that's singular, and then wa, which is for the other Bantu languages, switches to ba. So mtu as a person, and then watu, that's for with the wa prefix, that would be plural. So watu meaning people.
all right, so there you have it. So you all have just witnessed two Bantu speaking people break down the meaning of Bantu, meaning people. All right. So there you have it. All right. So we got, so Emicat, people gonna say you a Photoshop bot. So we got Boom.
Yeah, man, that's so good. But we had a question actually. Somebody would just ask a question. I don't want to lose it. Doesn't the fact that they distinguish themselves by calling themselves the Remetch mean that they identify different races?
No, they did not. They identified differences based on culture. Culture is king. Culture is king. All right. So they didn't have a consciousness of race the way we have today. And so we have to be very careful. Not only be very careful, we just got to flat out stop projecting backwards our modern notions and then placing them and forcing them on antiquity. We have to be careful and not do that. And so the answer is no. They didn't identify different races. They identified distinctions among populations, yes, but it wasn't based on race. It was based on culture. Okay? And I'm going to go to my classic example I always give. In the Tale of Sinuhe, there's a very popular Middle Egyptian text called the Tale of Sinuhe. In this particular tale, To give you the short and skinny of it, Senuhe is a born, bona fide, homegrown, native Egyptian. He's a Remich. He grows up. He ends up leaving Egypt. He leaves Kemet and goes to the Levant. While in the Levant, he starts off at the bottom of the hierarchy and works his way up to the elite. And he's very successful in the Levant. He takes on their customs and everything. Then, when he gets older, just like many traditional people from the continent of Africa, they want to be buried in their homeland. So Senuhe wanted to be buried back home in Egypt. But in order for him to do that, he had to be re-Egyptianized. So in order to come back, or go back to Egypt and be buried there. And so when he comes back, he was not considered an Egyptian. And so in order for him to be granted the right to be buried there, he had to go through some process to be re-Egyptianized and therefore be called a Remich again or an Egyptian again. And then he was given a beautiful burial, etc., etc. All right? And don't believe me, look up the Tale of Senuhe, read it. Read the English version. I'm not asking people to read spend years reading, learn language, then read it. You can read the English version. All right? And you'll know, and you'll see that. So the answer is no. They didn't deal with races. The concept of race didn't exist. See, people define race as a category. Like listen, this stuff is so simple, and I'm gonna make it real simple for y'all. When you all wash your clothes, right? Do you separate your clothes based on race? No, you don't. You separate it based on some criteria. And so you put your whites together, or your whites and lights together. Then you put your dark colors that could bleed, anything with dye and stuff like that could bleed. You put them together. And then you may separate your wool or things that could shrink, because you got to put the washing machine on delicate. So you put your delicates in a separate category. So these are simply categories. And the categories are based on inclusionary rules and exclusionary rules. So if I have a pile of clothes that are considered delicate, then that's the criteria. The only clothes in this pile are ones that fit the description of being delicate. And then I got a dark clothes pile and a light clothes pile. And you wash your clothes. And then some clothes you can't even dry. You got to hang dry. So you put them in a separate pile. You see? So all human beings categorize things. It's called ontology. When you cut up and slice and dice existence, the ontological aspect of categorization. Then you have taxonomy, where you stack hierarchy. Okay? That's two phenomena that goes on among humans since humans have been humans. But it's the rules that are different. Today we use lookership. We got this superficial modern social construct called race, and we're putting people in categories based on how they look, not on their culture. Oh, you look black, you black. Like, what does black look like? At what point does black stop and then another color starts? What's the exact point? You see what I'm saying? So it gets real serious. Anyway, I just want to drive that point home. So
Since I don't think you might get it because you were saying that was a bad example. We can dumb it down a little bit extra, and just since we're talking about groups on the continent, which is the Remech at this point, we could just stay on the continent and just say, because the question was that the fact that they distinguish themselves by naming themselves the Remech, was it because they were different races? So I would just ask you, what was his name again? I forgot.
Pan-African designs, yeah.
Okay. What other groups on the continent distinguish themselves from other groups on the continent by naming themselves something else?
And while Pan-African design answered that question, let's just see, this is what you do when you kind of walk through the logic flow of a person's question, comment, or thoughts, right?
May I add to it?
Yeah, let me just add real quick. What I want to say real quick is that if the Egyptians separated themselves from others based on race, then when the Egyptians separated themselves from the Nubians, are you now saying that the Egyptians and Nubians are two totally different races? Uh-oh. I think that's a guiding. No, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think
Interesting.
I think I don't think people have really given much thought to the concept of race in and of itself. Not many people have questioned the method to which they have come up with the so-called distinct races. If people would take the time out to check out the methodology, and we preach methodology, but I haven't seen nobody really go over the methods upon which they place people in these categories, and then once people do that, I think they'll realize it's not scientific, and it doesn't go across the board. So when people, start really just, looking into the phrases in which they're using and use them in the proper context, it'll make sense. But just question the methods always, and that includes the terms. Are the terms themselves valid? Because we use a lot of these terms that don't go across the board in these different fields that are invalid once you place them in a different field. It just it doesn't apply.
Yeah, and I want to welcome Pan African Design on the panel. On here is James. But before you speak, I have this picture up of a lion, and this is an actual image of a lion drawn by the scribes of ancient Egypt. And the point I want to make with this real quick is that when you see this picture, this is the fauna of the Nile Valley and Delta, which are the lions, right? And so they were inspired by actual lions to produce a lion, an image of a lion. Remember what I said pictographs are. Okay, so when we see this image actually reflects the lions within ancient Egypt. Okay, that was in their environment. All right, so it's a reflection of that. And here's another one, just real quick. Here's another one. I blew it up, but he's biting someone's hand. If I were to zoom back out, you see he's biting someone's hand. But this is another lion, and so you see that an actual lion inspired the glyph of a lion. So why is it that when we show a picture of a glyph for face, that all of a sudden they weren't inspired by the faces that are right there around themselves? So I just wanted to point that out. We talk about a lion, nobody's gonna argue. But as soon as I pull up this face right here, everybody and their mother gonna chime in and try to argue in some form or fashion. Okay, but go ahead, Brother James. You want to clarify your question?
Hold on, I'm trying to unmute.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, well, what I was looking at and observing, because it's all an observation. I understand that you can't read the language as well, but by them differentiating themselves and calling themselves the Ramesh, they're even though you do have what we call the Nubians in the layman terms, you have the Nubians. They're differentiating from them as well inside of the African species. Now, see, you have to understand that you have different African types. You have different African tribes. You have, when you look at it, one African in one certain part of the continent, they look different from the others, and that's how you differentiate. And you have different types of Africans within the continent. So just because you have we all say because we have dark hue that we're all Africans, that's not necessarily the case when you look at the phenotypes of different ones, because you can look at a West African and they look different from somebody you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I think you
because
lost
see,
me. Okay,
what
well,
I'm saying is what I'm trying to simplify here is just because you denoted the fact that they were identifying different races, you said cultures, and you're saying because the Nubians are inside the African race, that denotes the whole theory that they're identifying race. You're just saying that through culture, you can also do the same thing as well. Basically, is what you're saying.
What I'm saying is that the
Can you hear me, Uja?
distinctions. Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Oh,
If
all right.
if you were talking before, I didn't
Good
hear anything you
God
were saying.
Almighty, man! I was trying to get into the, but go ahead, do that, and let me get in
Okay.
that thing. Go ahead.
Okay. So brother James, what I'm saying is that the criteria for distinction in antiquity was culture, and all the elements of culture. So for example, you can be of the same shade of skin color, but speak a different language from person A to person B, or group A to group B. Group A is going to distinguish themselves from group B based on that, based on the culture. And so they're going to say, no, we're not you and you're not us. It still goes on to this very day. I got
Yeah, just
students.
okay, just like you say, we're Americans, and then you have some brothers that got dropped off in, say, Puerto Rico or Jamaica, or Cuba, and they speak a different language, but we're all the same people.
Well, no, we're
Mm,
not. That's what I'm
mm-mm.
saying. Jamaicans are Jamaicans. They're not Americans. So we're not the same people. The
Facts.
only we're all humans, yes, but we're not the same people because they have a different environment that they solve problems for than us here. They have a country that they're proud of. They have a nationality. They have a flag. They have their own thing that we don't have, and but we enjoy and we embrace each other. But we're not the same.
Yeah, that's what I
Okay.
was trying to explain to you, and even just have you just think by thinking about, because about different groups on the continent. Like if you've studied a little bit about the continent, you've had people about things like these are the Akan people, these are the Yoruba people, these are the Hutu people, these are the Luo people, these are the Kikuyu people. They're all black people, but the fact that these people differentiate themselves by naming themselves the same way the Egyptians would name themselves. We are the Remech, and the other ones are X, Y, and Z. You can go to, for example, let's just take Kenya because I'm from Kenya. You can go to Kenya and you can find people like we are Luo, and those are Kikuyus, and those are Kambas, and those are Luyas. So you name yourself, as a tribe, but it has nothing to do with skin color, with race, or anything. And that's how it works on the continent, and has always worked. So when you're even understanding that is going to help you see what was being shown when those groups are actually saying that we are the Remesh, the other people are the Nehisiu. As a matter of fact, the Nehisiu doesn't mean that the rest of the continent per se. It's actually a group of people within the continent itself, not all Black people. So if the ancient Egyptians had to have like more interactions with another particular group of people, they would probably have a different name for them, and it would be nothing like because now these are the Nehisians, are another group on the sub-Saharan that they were matched name like let's say Ugla Buga, that those the Nehisiu and the Ugla Buglas are two different races because they got named differently. So you have to switch your head, your thought frame out of that, and actually just understand that naming comes from culture, and culture is dependent on what people do. And if you even watch what we were doing yesterday, you would actually see when there was the play, the play on words, where the naming actually comes from something that is very distinct from a group of people. So that's what actually, that's what makes a group of people very distinct from another group of people. And then they get that particular name. So, and then even if, like Uja was actually telling you, if you actually think about it, those four groups of people are actually would today be, probably you saw some people that would have been called maybe a little bit pale, they're not Black. But those people, the Remech also distinctified themselves from them. So what are you trying to say? That the Remech were neither Black nor white, they were something else, like, because they're actually out here, making themselves distinct from all these people that some are white, so that we could probably say these are a little bit lighter and those are a little bit darker, they're the Nehisi and whatnot. That's not it, because logic actually would tell you that that is not so, because the match actually making them distinct from those particular groups, that if you were to think about races, then you would actually, have no way of actually identifying the rematch by race.
And then if you if you take if you understand that race is
Well,
not
goddamn, I
scientifically
was now.
valid,
I was next.
Oh yeah. One second. Due diligence. Yeah, Uncle's trying to get something out, but his mic was messed up. So let's just pass the mic. But Unc first, and then due diligence. Pick up from there.
So I think it's valuable to realize when the Naked Ape traveled around the planet, it wasn't like they was taking written languages with them. They was just migrating, right? They was following the herds, and the herds was following the grains, the grasses, and so the herd followed the grasses, okay, the herbivores that eat herbs, and then the carnivores, right? Follow the herds because they're gonna eat the herds. So the naked ape being the top species like carnivores, omnivores, they was following food. So they would get in the area, stay there for a while, maybe a few hundred years, maybe 1,000 years, but they would migrate. Groups would break away. No one actually knew where they was at. So that you to and for the most part, you all look the same. For the first million years on Earth, the species was brown, dark to brown, and as it migrated out, you would still be in an area where you all look the same. It wasn't like you had the cell phones or the video cameras or even know that there was other places where you could start to distinguish like that. And so when you get into the Roman periods and the Egyptian periods and all that, you still got people brown. The Romans wasn't exactly straight white, but it wasn't a thing where we gonna separate you with the color of your skin. It was based off of the culture. How you make your sacrifices. How you do your rituals. What names you call yourselves. How you wore your clothes, your markings, your scarification. What you wore when you went into battle. These were the separating things. It wasn't that. It wasn't that until the 1800s, 1700s, where all of a sudden you get this racism thing, right? Based off of color. Okay, this coincides with modern science, where science is trying to come and play, and so they use what you call race science, where they will use craniology and things of that nature to kind of make a race. When they started to act like, some people said it was 24 different types of human beings, some said it was 12, some said it was 4, 5, some said it was 3, and this was the conversation. This was the debate. It was based off of that. It was based off of pseudoscientific methods. It wasn't science. So we call it race science. So right now today, they're starting to raise their ugly head again. It's all on the internet. Right? So Chief X follow people who's practicing race science, where now you take DNA and now all of a sudden you make a race. Remember, there is no race. It's just a social construct. So if it's a social construct, how do the Egyptians become a race? They become a race in the figment of your imagination. They come a race based off of the pseudoscience that said it was a race. Charles Darwin theory of evolution by way of natural selection bust all of that up. But we still do it today. Even those who claim to be scientifically literate, they do it unwittingly. So if you think you're scientifically literate, but yet you keep trying to introduce race, they not us. Well, all human beings are 99% the same. There's the 1% in your genome that make you different. Skin color, hair texture, nose size, that's not the factor. What is the factor? The factor is that a group of people resided on a river together, a 4,100-mile river, where there's gene flow, there's back and forth, there's cultural exchange. So we want to start grouping groups of people. Started the rivers. Okay, so who was at these rivers? Who migrated back and forth? Or who was in these areas of the plains? Or who was in the Sahara? You group them like that, you sure enough wouldn't group them based off of, well, okay, you're way over there somewhere, no cultural contact, but all of a sudden you're gonna throw them in the mix. What Breasted called that, the what? The invading race theory. And that's funny because remember when he said the invading race theory, even he said that the population entered Egypt from the south, but they was white. Interesting. I just want to throw that in there a little bit. There's no place for race in the conversation.
Yeah, I just want to take a 1 second and then due diligence. You can go in. I just want because I'm paying attention to the chat and I just want to make sure I don't leave anybody out because I'll remind everybody that the link is pinned to the top so you can come on the panels first come first serve. We get 10 people in here. We got 6 now, so 4 more you all can fit up in here. And but I do want to address something very very quickly. Something that Desharab said, and I lost it. I lost his comment, but I remember what it was. He was basically saying when I was showing the lion, he was saying the female lion was the inspiration, et cetera, et cetera. But I want to call everyone's attention to the deity Mahas, which is a protector warrior god in the form of a lion. And the kings would take the form of this lion. And you can find this lion in the temple of Hatshepsut when even though she's a woman king, she took the form of a lion, and other kings took the form of this lion, and he's male all day, every day. And male lions are known for their manes, the large manes around their head, the hair, the fur, whereas female lions have a much smaller one. And so you have Sekhmet and Bastet and those deities, female deities, that reflect that smaller, more petite mane and things like that. So I just want to put that on the floor, so I don't want people to be confused and think that what the brother was saying had any merit.
Peace. All right. I just want to examine your question.
Sorry. And also Epidemic, who was a warrior lion god that was down in Ta-Nehisi. So in quote unquote Nubia. So if y'all want to look up Epidemic, Mahes or Mehes goes way back. You got the lion cylinder seals that go back to early dynasty, dynasty 0, dynasty first dynasty, pre-dynasty, stuff like that. These were lions all day, every day. But all right.
So
and Sadat said, I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm going to keep on going now. Go ahead.
I know. Go ahead and hate on me. Go do what you do.
No,
but
go ahead.
So the question was basically, since the ancient Egyptians distinguished themselves from the Nubians, this implies that they recognize race. But I want you to pay attention to how you worded the question, because we're talking about the ancient Egyptians and the Nubians, and then you bring in the construct of race, which is recent, right? So whenever you apply race to the ancient world, it's you imposing your present belief on something that they had no knowledge of. So you can do that just for the sake of conversation, but just know in a literal sense that they wouldn't have no idea what you was talking about. So, but if you want to leave it in context, it will be, since they made a distinction amongst themselves, which all humans do, that's how humans operate. We operate in groups. Back then, it would probably be more closer to a nationality, because this is a group of people under the same set of rules, governance, moving against other people, not necessarily against, but just, they moving around under a banner, So if you try to keep things in context, and I know it may be kind of hard at times, because we just now realizing that the concept of race didn't apply to antiquity. So this is something that's really new to most of everybody, right? We all pretty much is getting this right now. We got to keep beating it down every time it rears up, or else we'll get in this circular pattern. So I don't want you to think no one is getting on to you, but just keep things in context, and it'll help you move forward.
No, trust me, I'm well versed in what's going on. I just wanted to interject and just ask another question. So this is not just for me to learn, it's for everybody to learn, right? Because this is some simple questions that most people would probably ask. So you're saying basically that they didn't use race to write the glyphs. But however, this is what the argument is that Chief X or whoever is making, the differentiation in the color structure that they use, Didn't they use all of that to differentiate besides color? Didn't they use what a person looked like to say, hey, you're not me?
No, okay, so the short answer is no. But let me elaborate because um now I did an entire show just on this topic. And so I'm gonna summarize it in a couple of sentences. In a couple of sentences. So
No, you
listen.
won't.
No, I will watch. So listen. The human act of differentiating things and distinguishing things is a universal phenomenon among human beings. It's the criteria in which humans do it that's not the same among all humans. So race is a product of trying to differentiate something. So a modern notion of race is a social construct that's used to separate and distinguish one group of people from another group, from another group, from another group. But what is it based on? It's based on a modern social construct that's highly dependent upon lookership, how someone looks, and it's usually narrows down to even just skin color. In antiquity, they didn't do that. They distinguished populations from one another, yes, but the criteria was not the same as our criteria. They used culture as the criteria. Culture is king. So the culture is a result of a list of things. It's the language you speak. It's the clothing that you wear as a result of your location. It's the rituals that you perform. It's how you bury your dead. It's the weaponry that you use to protect yourself. It's the food that you eat to sustain yourself. All those things and more is what composes culture. And so what the ancient Egyptians did, they did what we call today caricature. They created a caricature or a stereotype of these cultures to represent these distinctions. So the Egyptians represented themselves in a reddish brown color with a certain outfit on, a certain hairstyles and whatnot. They represented the Nahisi with a certain pigment of coloring and a certain hairstyles with the earrings, the necklaces, the bracelets, the armbands, and stuff like that. They represented the Chimehu, which would be the Libyans, a certain way. So they created a stylized or stereotypical look to represent these distinctions, but the distinctions were based on culture. And it's no different than like the Yoruba and the Igbo today, where if you were to see a Yoruba and Igbo person, if you didn't know any better, you would think that they're the exact same people. Not identical, but I'm saying you would be like, hey, y'all all one people. But among them, they say, no, I'm not them, they're not me. I'm Yoruba, they're Igbo. So we have to understand that race is a modern thing, and we're so intertwined with it today that we project it backwards in antiquity. And we do so in error. So we got to stop it. Like due diligence said, we just got to throw it in the trash when we talk about history and ancient things. Now, in modern day, race is real. Race is used. It affects us in our life today, you know, and these rules that we set forth. But in ancient times, it wasn't about that. They were not checking DNA at the gates of Egypt. They weren't checking no color, skin color to allow people in and out. Nah, it was like, listen, if you don't speak my language, you're not me. And I can show text, and I can show text right now, really, to show you how the Egyptians viewed their southern neighbors. In terms of they spoke a different language, like nah, they speaking some mumbo jumbo down there. That's not us. And they put a border stones to warn people, like, listen, you about to cross over into our territory, and just to let you know, heads up. Same thing with the Middle Eastern, the people from Levant coming in, and that's
Yeah,
just it.
you'll be pressed to find texts where anytime they try to separate themselves from other cultures, they actually say that, let's say the Nihisu, day of the dark skin, things of that nature that you'll never find that, or other people, day of the pale skin, that kind of stuff. So the separation, they will tell you what it is. And it's like Mujao said, and it's like Ankh said, or Bobby Baltimore said. It's customs, is it's just way of life, the things that make a distinct culture, distinct culture. So you won't find anything on the text that will actually say that that then his you are dark skinned, and like John said, they'll be like the language that they're speaking, or the things that they do. But I wanted to say that I think the pseudo killers wanted to speak, so I think it's their time.
No, that was Bobby.
Now this is me. I got a question.
Oh, okay. And I thought it was one and the same. Man, I'm like, I can hit twice. All right, go ahead. Oh, pseudo killer assassin. Okay. All right.
I ain't changed my name. I got a question. So my question is this. So in 2019, we the Seshu had received a text in a format to read. The name of that text is Egypt's Encounter with the West, Race, Culture, and Identity by William Cooney. You remember that?
Yep.
All right. So in I believe it's like the last paragraph, he distinctively says something about his methodological approach, and he emphasized like the chronology, the factors, ethnic groups, and what was it? What transpired over time based on the Remich and modern Egyptologists, right? Where he says that in the abstract. So something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing. So when you introduced this to us, what was your purpose for us reading this material?
Well, same thing on the topic we're talking about now is to really show that the problems in the conversations we're having in terms of especially when it comes to Egyptology and ancient Egyptians, is that we are facing the consequence of the racism in early Egyptology, of how they strategically try to figuratively remove Egypt from this African context, and they chose to refer to the southern neighbors and follow the Greeks by dividing Africa into three pieces of pie. They call the north the Caucasian Africa. They call everything south Africa proper, and then right there in the Nile Valley and Delta area, they call that the Valley area. And that's after the Greeks, when they did Egyptos for the Valley area and the Delta area, they call Ethiops everything below, and they call everything to the west Libya. So they give the north to Europe or quote unquote white people. They give the Valley and Delta area to the Asian people, quote unquote, and then everything else to quote unquote black people. And so it's a chronological timeline right there. And so we're suffering from that. But we're not approaching the problem correctly because we're caught up in the on the surface of, okay, the racial thing because of other things. And so the text that you mentioned, it just exposes all that and puts people on the right track of mind to really, really answer the question.
That's why I asked. I wanted you to actually clearly state that, and we've been having that for a few years, and then here we are.
Won't you
right
can you
post
answering
things?
Post that title in the chat so everybody else, and if you have the link, do that as well.
So Wuja, you see my my profile, right?
What, the
picture
image?
on it, right? Yeah, you see it, right?
It's real small though. It look like
It's a map. Yeah.
It's a map.
Okay, yeah, but okay, yep. It's real small.
Rusted, right? So remember when Africa used to be called the Black Continent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And black was synonymous with Africa. Okay. So then when the Black Continent and the jungles and all that, they did all that. Okay. So when they started digging in Egypt and they moved away a lot of the sand, right? They was like, oh shit. Okay. These black people, they can't be black. They gotta be white. Black people aren't intelligent enough to do this because they looked at it as being backwards. The Negroes. So if you look at the map right there, it says the the great white race, all the way in the Sahara is the great white race, and right underneath of that mystical line that they made is
Wait,
the Negroids.
Unc, let me stop you. Do you have the map that? Because I want to share it because nobody could see
Yeah, I got
your
the map.
avatar. It's
Yeah,
real small.
I got the map.
Can you share
All
your
right.
screen? Because your tiny avatar ain't doing it no justice. All I see is great white and then BAC on the screen. So if you could share that, but while you get that, I just want to blow my screen up because somebody asked, man, the chat goes up so fast, and I forgot somebody said, "Can I do that, please?" And man, I don't see who it was, but somebody asked me when I made the comment that I can show text where the Egyptians distinguished themselves from their southern neighbors that people like to call the Nubians, and they made very distinct distinctions. I have several texts because I did a whole presentation on this, and so I'm showing one right now where this is from the okay, so let me grab this image. This is from the inscription of Thutmose the Fourth, where the ancient Egyptians are referring to the Nahisi as Beshtu, which is the word rebellious, and that's what they were known as. And then I got other text primary sources where they say the language that they speak is nothing but a bunch of mumbo jumbo, and they criticize it and so on and so forth, and that they're different from them. They even describe them and so on and so forth. But I did a whole presentation on that, so I'm not going to revisit it. But if somebody asks me again, I can show more. But I don't want to lose his train of thought. So you got the map? Oh, let me get it. You sent it to me. I just want to, man, this thing is small though. All right, I'm going to show it on the screen. Y'all give me a minute. Uncle, you there? If you there, we can hear you now. As soon as Uncle come in, he's out. Somebody take the mic while I'm gonna pull up Unc's image so that we can see what he's talking about.
Okay.
All right, he's back now. So Unc, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. So I'm gonna pull your image up. While you keep on talking, I'm gonna pull your image up.
I just want everybody to know that politics is different on how it really is on the ground. So you might have this political agenda to separate yourself, right? Just politically, but on the ground, the communities are functioning together with no problem. Even at what they're calling the forts, these forts are more than just forts. They're trading posts. Communities live within there, and they move back and forth seamlessly amongst each other. This is what the early Egyptologists didn't understand, that there was an entanglement there. So much so that when Reisner went down there and dug up Nubia, he was like, oh man, these are the Egyptians. He thought they was the Egyptians. And when he realized, when he looked up at that line, that map you got right there, right? When he looked up at that line and realized that they was below that line, then they became the Negroes that was colonized by these white Egyptians. It's a bunch of crap. The whole thing is nonsense. And to this day, we carry that stigma because we say the Nubians, that there is nobody called Nubians. They wasn't called that, or the C group, or the Pan group. None of that. That's all made up. It's a figment of white people's imagination. It's right there for you. That's why we don't, the Mediterranean. Look, the great white race. It went all the way into the Sahara. Okay? And so what Bressett was saying is that he the one that coined the quote unquote invading race theory. You can read his own words. He says that they entered Egypt from the south and gave rise to this great Egyptian civilization. See, sometimes you lie so much that you end up telling the truth. from the South. He said it based off of the archaeological stuff, based off of the you see these white crowns and the artifacts they found. They was like, it came from the South, but they was white people. How many amongst you believe that even make any sense? Rosner, he dug up, he thought they was the Egyptians, and then he realized, man, I'm all the way down here. They got to be slaves. He the one that made those people, those Southerners, the slaves. And you can read it. They were slaves and they was working in the Egyptian house. Did all of that. Right to the point where it's still in our minds. That's why black people don't want to deal with the Southern culture. We want to deal with the Egyptians. Wait a minute, man. We're talking about superpowers on the Nile Valley, which Egyptology is now fighting for. They're not fighting for Asia. They're not fighting for the Mediterranean. They're fighting, and big ups to the brothers and sisters, the great ancestors that went before us, that coined the term Nile Valley civilizations. I'm letting you know right now, major universities are fighting for that because it just makes sense based off of new archaeological surveys. So if you're talking that nonsense that a lot of people is on YouTube because they're ignorant of what's really going on in academia, right? Our archaeological finds sometimes take 10, 15 years to come through. So you're actually behind if you're using those types of words. You on that rising of nonsense. You on that breasted bull crap where they drew that line, the great white race. I didn't make this up. It was literally the great white race all the way in the Sahara. They meant that. They wasn't just playing with that. And by the way, Egyptology was so daggone racist that there's people in Egyptology, right, that was digging up skulls, right, like Morton, right? He in Egypt digging. Right? He's said to be the father of the scientific racism. And he's the one making determinations of who the Egyptians was and wasn't. Are you kidding me? It's Roth at this point. There is no way people can act like, well, y'all trying to bring out the race card. Wait a minute, man. All colleges of work in England, France, Dubai, Baltimore, Maryland, Morgan State University, they all understand the history of the foundation of Egyptology was racism, white supremacy, with the eugenics, breasted, he's eugenic, all of that. And I'm saying it's taken all this time and it's still not there because we're trying to use a new race science. Once it was the craniology was race science, then it was the color, the color sign, the color basically, and now it's the DNA. It's happening again with people who aren't studying DNA are actually using DNA to pick out a race. Wait a minute. Well, okay, we took our DNA and you said we wasn't Native American based on our DNA. We could have been here. Okay, so now you use DNA and archaeology and you look at tribes, how they move around. So there's a history behind that. So the population that moved into North America, there's a history behind that. There's no history of no mass migration into the Americas with people that came from the continent of Africa prior to being shipped over here, which is the largest migration on planet Earth, besides the migration that happens every day in the oceans when the plankton rises to the top and feeds all the living organisms in the ocean. There's no record of that. So we can safely say that Africans didn't catch boats over here in large amounts before they was captured in slavery. So it just amuses me when people, one, start to use DNA as if using DNA can be a factor in making a brand new race. No more different than the skin color thing. So now when you look at the Egyptian walls, they showing themselves all one color. Man, you said it before, like, so now people are just all one color? Like it's laughable at this point. And I be thinking people just be trying to get aha moments. I be thinking people like T-Fex, he's surrounded and he knows it. So the best he can do is just howl and scream because he really likes the attention. He don't care if he's getting beat up. He really likes the attention.
So are you still planning on having a teacher moment?
Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Okay, yeah. So that's what people should look out for. I wanted to add to what you were saying another person's name, because you mentioned breasted, and let's just give some timeline on these folks. So breasted did his thing. He was an Egyptologist and archaeologist, and he did his thing between 1865 and 1935. That's how old that's his lifespan, right? So we're dealing with the mid 1800s to the earlier side of the 1900s. Okay, so he was doing his thing at the same time. Budge is his contemporary. Reisner is his contemporary, who you also mentioned, and these other people. But what people need to understand is that these folks are influenced by an intellectual circle of people that was very influential, coming from George Hegel. And so this whole thing, this philosophy and this paradigm and this view of Africa, it is really climaxed with George Hegel prior to them. And he's in the late 1700s, all the way into the 1800s. So they pick up where he left off. And so he had a view of Africa, but not only him, but it was him and the elite intellectuals of his day. They viewed Africa proper, which now they call sub-Saharan Africa, as childish, wild, uncivilized, uncultured, and didn't even have the ability to have emotions. And so that stigma carried over into the scholarship of these guys that we're mentioning now, with Breasted, Reisner, and so on and so forth. They called everybody south of Egypt blacks or Negroes, and then they swapped that word Negro in their text, in their writing. They swapped the word Negro with the word Nubian, and that's the main reason why I say we got to throw that word Nubian in the trash in our conversations, because everybody's going to get caught up into the banana and tailpipe. They're going to caught up in
I
that.
want to muddy the water a little bit.
Okay.
After
you go, I want to answer this question I got on the screen, but go ahead.
All right. So I'm not going to tell you where it's from.
All right.
It is notable fact that even today, Egyptians, particularly in Upper Egypt, you're going to figure it out, belong to the same group B as the populations of Western Africa on the Atlantic seaboard, and not the A2 group characteristics of white race. Prior to any crossbreeding, it would be interesting to study the extent of group A2 distribution in Egyptian mummies, which present-day technique make possible. The Egyptian race, according to the classical authors of antiquity, to the Greek and Latin writers contemporary with the ancient Egyptians, the latter's physical classifications pose no problems that the Egyptians were Negroes, thick-lipped, kinky-haired, and thin-legged. The unanimity of the author's evidence on physical fact as salient as a people's race will be difficult to minimize or pass over. How do you feel about that?
That sound like Diop.
I told you. I knew you'd figure it out when I saw it.
Yep, that sound like Diop for sure. But no, that's the thing. Diop and Obenga at that time. Well, you asked me how I feel about it. Is that's the correct. That's the beginning of the correct pushback on that, because he recognized the game and then spoke out against it in the fashion that he did. And so really we're the ones that's dropping the ball nowadays by not figuring out the banana in the tailpipe, because they laid the foundation for us to have our eyes on it, but we're not doing our job. And so we're caught up in the same thing. We're talking about the race and skin color and stuff, but they already did that in 1970. That's 50 years ago. So we're gonna keep arguing over the same thing for 50 years. That's crazy. But no, that's the beginning. That's the beginning of having the correct approach to this. So yeah. But let me just quickly address the question, because it's a good question on the screen from Rasan. He says, how does one reconcile the view in Kemet of being distinguished from the Nahisi with the fact of the Nesutian, he's talking about the kings, the kingship culture or the pharaonic culture having early presence in Kustul. So here's the answer, the short and skinny answer. The ancient Egypt or Kemet that we now know and love has its genesis in the geographical territory or region that we call Nubia. That's all Nubia is a geographical region. It's not a country. It's no different than how we call the Middle East as a region. There's no country called Middle East, but we designate a region of Earth and we call it Middle East. So prior to Egypt becoming Egypt, or prior to Kemet becoming Kemet, prior to Kemet becoming any kingdom or state polity, the organization of the administration, the writing system, and the structure has its genesis mainly in that area. Kustul, from Nakada, what's archaeologically known as Nakada, all the way down to Kustul, and then further down across the waterfalls or cataracts, down further into nowadays northern Sudan. So from northern Sudan to southern Egypt, that whole area, if you imagine a circle right there, that is the spot where the genesis of what we now know as ancient Egypt bubbled up. Then it moved north, and then it started to unify the people, and then they formed a state apparatus or polity called Simatawi, or Tawi for short. And then in the 11th dynasty, they called the kingdom or country Kemet. It wasn't called Kemet until the 11th dynasty. So there's no need to reconcile because there were no Egyptians prior to the state formation, because they start to have a coalition or a synchronized identity. They started to unify their identity as the Remech.
So
during
hold up,
pharaonic times. Yeah.
So to be clear, you're saying it doesn't. So you're saying it starts in the 11th dynasty. So could you give us like for reference point, like how many years from Narmer is that? Or are you saying that Narmer, it wasn't Kemet when Narmer unified the two lands? And then I listen to your answer.
Okay. Yeah. That's exactly what I'm saying. The 11th dynasty is roughly around 2150 BCE. Starts around that time. And Namir, scholars, the general consensus, the average date is given around 3200 BCE. So you're talking about 1,000 years after the formation of Kemet, that Kemet was called Kemet. Prior to that, it wasn't called Kemet.
So that we the lay person like me or whatever, we think that it starts being called Kemet at normal, right?
Yeah.
No.
So I'm just trying to make so everybody have an understanding, for just the simple type of people to understand it.
Yeah. So okay, let me just repeat it short and clear. When Kemet, so let me not even say it that way. When ancient Egypt first got its formation, when it got its first birth, it wasn't called Kemet. It was called Tawi or Simatawi. And Tawi is a dual word for the two regions. And those two regions was Upper and Lower Egypt. And so they unified the two. Then the state formation occurred. The confederation occurred. And that's the unification process, right? So that they put a date on that around 3200 BCE or 3100 BCE. It wasn't until the 11th dynasty in the time of Mentuhotep that the kingdom then started to be called Kemet as the name of the country. So prior to that, it wasn't called Kemet. It was called Khenu, which means the residence, and it was called Tawi for short, and it was also called Simatawi, and it was also called Idebwi. Idebwi means the place of the two river banks.
So is this chronologically, or are you saying all of these names were at the same time? What I mean, not before they get to Kemet. All of these names you just rattled off. You're saying they were all used there, or was this just chronologically on them changing it till they get to Kemet?
Okay, the names that I mentioned, Tawi and Simatawi, are very early. Khenu is also very early, Old Kingdom. Idebwe may come about a little later than that, but prior to 11th dynasty. Then by the time you get to the 11th dynasty, the country began to be called Kemet, and also introduced the word Tameri. So Tameri and Kemet are two names for the country that did not come about until the 11th dynasty and after.
So Wuja, here's the good part. You get the pyramids are built in the fourth dynasty. That's like a monumental thing that occurred, and most people connect the pyramids to all Egyptian period. That's not that. The people that
Right.
really picked back up on building pyramids, the people in the south, the Nahisi, or whatever you want to call them.
Right.
They was heavy in building pyramids, and I always like to look at Old Kingdom art. I got a whole book on Old Kingdom. It look a little different. So a little bit you be like, oh man, I'm just not gonna say it. It just look a little bit different. And so they say pre-dynastic, pre. We forget the word pre. We run over the word pre-Egyptian, before the Egyptians, and then we forget the unification is really a daggone war. Like Russia, right, is attacking right now. It is they fought a war, so it wasn't like they was kumbayaing. So we hear it, the peaceful. You hear people that try to represent Egypt. No, it was a war. They killed and murdered people. They died. Right. And then it became ununified. So there was times where they were splitting up. So they wasn't comfortable all the time with being together. And then it was long periods where there wasn't that. And so there's a lot of records missing. That there's a superpower that's left out because you only get the story from the side, right, of people in Kemet. You're not getting the other side of it. So it's a lot of propaganda going on. So it would behoove people to really know what they're talking about. You cannot look at Egyptian artifacts and listen to what they're saying. Remember they said they beat the Hittites. Well, actually, the document says that the Hittites won and the Egyptians, both sides said they won. Why? Because this is politics. This is how you represent history. It's a political move.
Well,
So to be honest
stay
with
right
you,
there. But
okay.
I was saying stay right there where you are. With your comparison, the current conflict between Ukraine and Russia. Look at the propaganda that's going on. Russia is justifying making the move, invading, because of XYZ. But if you listen to the Ukrainians, they're saying, nah, that's a bunch of BS. That's a bunch of lies.
It's an exercise. They're not invading. See?
So
right?
And right. In the early phases of the unification of Kemet, it was an upward movement from the northern Sudan, southern Egypt area that's called Nubia geographically. It started to make its way up, and people started to unify with the ideals and structure and so on and so forth to the point where, from that point all the way up to the Mediterranean was unified as one. And that's it. So they became the Egyptians. See, this is before Egypt. And so they became the Egyptians. And that's why I keep telling people that we got to get rid of the name Nubia and Nubian in these conversations. Because the real the real Nubians are Egyptians. They're not the Nahisiu.
Crazy.
The Nahisiu are the Nahisiu. And like I demonstrated last night in the Book of Gates, it tells us why they have these names. The three neighbors of Egypt, 4 including the Egyptians, that's who they talked about in their sacred text of the Book of Gates. They talk about themselves, they talk about the Libyans, they talk about the Asiatics, they talk about the Nahisiu, that people say Nubians. And they represent the cardinal points. Nobody's in the north because nobody was in the Mediterranean Sea. But the east is represented by the Asiatics, the south by the Nubians, and the west by the Libyans. And they themselves are in the center. So with that, they made these distinctions, and nobody can get around that. Nobody can get around that. And so the Nahisi are people that was south. The real Nubians are people who lived in the two cities called Nubit, translates the city of gold, or gold town. And if we modernize that name, Nubit, or its citizens, we would call them Nubians. And by the way, for reference, that's the Nakada area. And that's where you get the Nakada 1, 2, 3 area. And then when you talk about the Badarian culture is another archaeological label that they give another site. So you got Nakada culture, Badarian culture, Gurzian, and so on. And they have certain time ranges for each one of those. But prior to the formation of Egypt, you have the area of where Kustul is, which is further south. Stuff was bubbling up at. We have material evidence of the some of the hottest iconography, which is the Hedget crown, the king, the bull's tail that the king wears, the name Taseti. That's why Taseti is the first known.
Yeah, the land of the bow. That's yep. Yeah, that's deep. That's the first. Yep. Huh.
That's the first known.
So it was 22 knowns, right?
42.
40. Okay. Well, how? That's funny.
Well, no. No, but you're right. It's 20. No, it's 42 in all. It's 22 in lower and 20 in the
right.
south, or maybe I may have it backwards. But here's something else that's interesting, and I mentioned this before, but I don't know if everybody watching now heard it. In ancient Egypt, the Egyptians called their southern border the head. And then they called the northern border, which is at the Mediterranean Sea, the feet. So they're telling you where they come from. They're telling you where they came from and worked their way up, because you go from head to toe. So the south is called Resi, which is the word for head, but we translate it as south. And then Mehu is a word for feet, or to submerge, and that's Lower Egypt, or that's in the north on the map. That's next to the Mediterranean. It's called Mehu because it's sea level, and it's submerged underwater. It's marshy and swampy. So they refer to their south as the head. That's how they orientated themselves. And the right side is called Amen or Amenet, and then the left side is called Iabet, which is the word for left side or east. So it tells you that they're facing the south. They're facing the place of origin for the culture, with their head in the south. Even the word Kenti or Kenet, that's the word for forehead. And so we say Kenti Amenti, the foremost, the forward, something that protrudes out. So people got to understand, it's all right there in front of us. We don't even have to argue about all this stuff. That's why I keep saying we got to leave the race conversation alone and just get down with the culture. It tells you where it's from.
So
I don't care.
Ain't that the joke though? Ain't that the joke though? That's the joke. So a person hollers, Egyptians ain't black. Egyptians ain't. Then they hit you with they ain't you, and then some kind of way slide over to they ain't black, right? Hold on, it's the crazy. So I like to play the game. Okay, since you want to, since you want to say the Egyptians ain't black. Last time I checked, they said Africa and black people were synonymous. So there's no doubt no more. Watch this. There's no doubt. Nobody in real I ain't talking about the fake universities that pop up. I'm saying the real brick and mortar universities. They all agree that the Egyptians are indigenous, not just but indigenous Africans. So now watch this. Now all of a sudden the counter that is, yeah, but they not them Africans. Like what? That's racism, bro. Like there is no one way to be African. Like unbeknown to those who don't study, you can actually have light skin and blue eyes and be an indigenous African. Black people, the people that you calling black people is the African Americans. They don't want to hear that. I'm gonna say it one more time. There is no one way to be indigenous African. You can have pale skin or light skin and blue eyes, and ancestors never left the continent. Trust me. That's why the conversation is fun. Those who understand genetics, populations, so you can study the geography and the weather patterns to clearly understand where the populations came from. They got archaeology to tell you who was where, right? Like okay, where's the settlements at? You know what I'm saying? Where do we have groups of people being at? You know what I'm saying? What did they leave? They found they poop. They figured out what they was eating. You can find all that out. That's not hard. But it's funny. There's no one way to be African. I just want to make that point. Like if you sitting
Hey,
here thinking that all Africans is jet black, then you lost. You done. Yeah, you're done.
The other thing that that actually sometimes like that this actually needs to be put made put into people's awareness all the time is that even if we argue about why they're black, why they're white, why they're blue, yellow, green, whatever, um all of let's just all if we all agree that none of us saw the ancient Egyptians. I mean, we've seen a mummy, but a mummy is a mummy. You can't tell what a mummy looks like. A mummy, he doesn't look like a person. So so we all agree that none of us have seen the ancient Egyptians, right? But since people, like to put written documentation at a higher pedestal, so we have people who actually saw, the ancient Egyptians, and not just seen, but actually documented that in writing, you know. So then the question is, because with anything, you always say like, okay, do we have any eyewitnesses? At least let them tell us what these people look like. Yes, we do. So you have the ancient Greek. They saw the ancient Egyptians, and they actually wrote about it, which we still have documents on. So then what do they say? And that always just gets swept under the rag all the time. Everybody be like, well, let us decide how they look like. Forget what the Greeks said. And obviously, and then when it comes to other things, oh, the Greeks, they had everything on check. They're accurate with what they did and what they invented and whatnot. But when it comes to, what they write about the ancient Egyptians, we don't know about that. You know, that is a little funny.
you're right. Hey, I'm gonna share what I did. I did a social experiment as a scientist. I did a social experiment. This is about 2 years ago, and what I did was I asked people, are they blank, right? And the blank was I named the African country. So for example, if I were to do it now, I'm not going to do it now, but if I were to do it, I would ask everybody on the panel or people I talk to one on one. I say, "Are you Nigerian?" And they would say no. And I would say, "Are you Ethiopian?" They would say no. I would say, "Are you Egyptian?" They say no. "Are you Congolese?" I would say no. "Are you from Tanzania?" I mean, "Are you Tanzanian?" No. And I would go down to all the list of all 54 countries in Africa, and they would say no to every last one of them. And then I would say, "Are you African?" And they would say yes. So do y'all see the problem there? Because if I ask them, are they anything within the 54 countries? If I use the country names, all 54, they say no to all of those. But then I name a continent, and they say yes. So that is the root of confirmation of the confusion that we're having as a people here in America when we have these conversations. For some reason, we give precedence over a continent and don't understand the different levels of identity. Because they could say no to every country that they're not that. But then I say, "Are you African?" They'll say yes. And don't you know that at the continental level, that is the least or the weakest form of identity? Because it has no political power, it has no state apparatus, it has no seats in any quorum, no council, no nothing. The whole continent is not a state apparatus. It's not a polity. But they say so they say no to the polities, but yes to where there's no power. You see what I'm
Maybe
saying?
we need to say yet on that because I think that's the move. That's the what the way we're trying to move to is making the whole continent one thing, and then making those what you call in countries now states. That's
Yeah,
what the
that
mission is, right?
That ain't gonna work.
well,
It
that's
has to work. See that? See,
that's
you can't be negative like that. That has to work because
I'm
well,
I'm not I'm not being negative.
the fragmentation that we're dealing with is what's us in our weakness. We all see the problem. We
but let
have
me
That's
to
not
say,
the
unify.
but
problem.
When you look
Yeah,
at
that's not
China,
the
you look at
problem, yo. Yeah,
when you
that's not the
you look at
problem, yo.
examples of other strong nations, and it's no
Mm-mm.
kind of you look at China, they have a whole continent that they pretty much almost the size of a pretty much continent unification based on what you call race. You have fragmentation with them as well with those islands like with the island that they're trying to take back now. What is that,
what
Taiwan?
Taiwan,
Yeah, they're trying to take that back now, back into up under the umbrella. So you do have fragment. That was
Korea and
done through the
Japan.
European. That was done through the European nations. So what we're trying to
Well,
do is we're trying to unify the whole. I know it's
How?
like,
They couldn't even unify the Nile Valley. It's
well,
one river.
but hold
but
up. Can
see,
we, are we
we're on a global.
wait are we forgetting that Africa was never homogeneous
Yeah, yeah.
to begin with,
Yeah,
and
man.
even today
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
it was never a need to because, like you said, at one point the globe was just consisting of these little four little tribes that you're talking about. It's expanded now to where we have knowledge of the whole globe. So we're seeing the
well
play on what these other countries that are coming into power. Hold on.
well
Hey,
okay
Wuja,
why
do
you
you have
get
an
that
example? Do you have an example of Europeans actually don't like this
Can I?
European thing?
Yeah, I got an example. I got an example.
Yeah, give me an
Uh,
example of that.
the prime example of which he's talking about is the United States. To do exactly what the United States did.
Huh?
I don't know how
United
else to
States?
explain it.
Yeah, yeah, explain that. What did the
They,
United States do?
they
no he
uniform.
yeah it's a that I just read it earlier. We the people form a more perfect union. So it's in the Constitution that the 50 states, now 50 states, they formed a confederacy of or a union of 50 states on a federal level. And so the states have sovereignty, but they relinquish a portion of that sovereignty, a teaspoon of that sovereignty, to give it over to the federal level of the union,
Yeah, but how many
which
people
serves
got
as
to
a
die
protector.
first, though, Wuja? You know how many people
No,
gonna have to die before that can happen, though? Somebody got to die. I want to say this.
That's what happens in war. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So there's got to be a war. The war got to break out in Africa
I
for
mean,
that.
not necessarily. I mean,
No,
check
come
out.
on, man. Let's be real. Hold on.
Wasn't that what Gaddafi was trying to do?
Listen,
Wasn't
listen.
Gaddafi trying to
And
unify
they
them and get them
slice his
under
head
one?
off. They slice his head off. So let's be real. There
I mean,
has to
nobody.
be a war. Listen, they fought a war in the United States. The South against the North. They fought a war. They fought a war. They killed all the Native Americans to get this. Also, you can use the United States if you want, but they had to fight the British, French, all that. So let it be known for the record. Yes, it's possible, but they got everybody want
well,
to run it though, bro. I just want you to know, everybody want to be the king. You got to wipe
Ger-
them out, just like in Egypt. You had to kill the smaller kings. Had to get wiped out for them unified.
but
Tribes
wait,
and all
wait.
that they had to get deaded.
But all right, but hold on. Hey, we got to make sure we stay in the reality too. Although I appreciate the example of using the United States, the United States is a country, it's not a continent. So we're talking about a large continent called Africa, and we
Hold
label the
on.
continent Africa, and
I don't.
and
I don't
and
think
the
that's fair.
Do you
You saying
understand that we have an African Union?
Right. That's already
Yeah,
I mean,
got.
it's
and
like
that's what I think. That's what the mission is. That springs out of what
the
Patrice Lumumba and them was trying to do. I mean,
we already
Kwame
have an
Nkrumah, that
African Union,
springs from that.
and like Uncle was talking about, the unification always comes as as a means to solve a problem. And the problem, like Uncle was talking about, is colonization and things of that nature. So different African countries realize that they have to stand up together to fight for their freedom, and so then the African Union is formed. And the African Union, first of all, is not even based on skin color. It's for all countries that's on the geographical location that is known as the African continent. So that's already there. So we don't. You have to be careful and not do what we were actually trying to say from the beginning, where it's like we impose our worldview into another to a different culture. So here, what we're doing is, because we know how the United States of America work. So why don't the continent can do that? No, the continent already has tools and mechanisms that it used to unite themselves when it's
But
needed for those things, which is the African Union.
so, but wait, I
Right.
don't. Wait. We gotta hold up, because I appreciate this conversation, but remember, this sprung out of my comment. What I said was my social experiment. About 2 years ago, I went around to several people, and I went down the list of 54 African countries, and I asked the person, "Are they that?" And without exception, they said no to all 54 countries. Now I'm saying countries, but these 54 countries represent, they have memberships, so they have people. Okay, now a country can consist of multiple ethnicities. Like Kenya has the Maasai, the Kikuyu, the Luo, and so on and so forth, but they're all Kenyans and they're proud of it. And so I go down that list, and everybody answered no. But then the moment I say, "Are you African?" they say yes. And so my point is not to really start a conversation about the aspirations of unifying Africa. My point is to demonstrate the confusion that's on the road right now. People will identify as an African on the continent, but then they have no identity under that level when it comes to the actual polities on the continent and its
Were
people,
these Africans that you asked?
the African Americans that I asked.
I
They were
think if you ask Africans, that they would answer the opposite.
and you're right, because Emiket is from Kenya, and she'll tell you herself. But that wasn't the experiment. The social experiment I was doing was to show the confusion among us African Americans, though. So
Right.
that's why my control group. I mean, I controlled the variable. I controlled four African Americans.
Can I
That's why I
speak
only
to it?
asked them. Yeah, go
To
ahead, sure.
I just yeah, and I agree with you. And the whole thing is people don't even know why they consider themselves African. I think it's even more insightful if you would have asked them why they consider themselves African and what an African is. And if
I
we just
did.
go through that, we'll just see how, ambiguous it is. Like whenever we
Yep.
just analyze the term and you say African is somebody that was born in Africa, or African can be somebody that's a descendant from Africa. Well, that that encompasses a lot of people, and that gives it a lot of wiggle room. So whenever you start talking about Africans in the sense of trying to put it back in history and to talk scientifically about it, you're not talking about no specific people. You know what I'm saying? But so the
That
point
was
that
my
I'm making
follow
to
up.
add to your point is that it just these people lack the understanding of the terms, won't question the terms.
And you're right. And that was in fact my follow up. So I did that social experiment. I let it ride. I let it die down. And then I came back and I started asking, what does it mean to be African? And I asked, why are you African? And the answer always ended up being a DNA conversation, being a genetic conversation.
Silly.
That they're descendant from somebody from the continent, like you said. And so, and like, okay, well, then our
Ujawu.
identity, then but that just confirms my overall point, which we need to analyze and approach the question in a new way. And that's what people
And that
not really willing to do.
right. And to add to that, you know what I'm saying? It's also kind of strange that people would say something about DNA, because I don't know where you can look to where they find out that DNA has anything to do with race. But when I hear some of these people talking on these channels, they be promoting that. So when people even say that, they ain't, they haven't even done no research. You know what I'm saying? That's people making stuff up, posing themselves like they know anything on anything. You know what
Oh,
I'm saying?
but wait. Let me clarify that They weren't saying like when the DNA pop up in the question, they weren't going by race. They were trying to go by identity, like what group they're in. Like people will take an ancestry test and they'll say, okay, I share a majority of my percentage is shared with current modern day Nigerians or whatever, you know. So that's
Say it again,
how.
Wuja. Say that again, Wuja. You just said a key word. Say that again. You
Yeah.
share
So
my DNA with what?
yeah, they would share when you see people get percentages.
Mm-hmm.
Those percentages is how much of
Mm-hmm.
your genome is
Mm-hmm.
shared
Mm-hmm.
by the modern
Modern.
populations
Current.
on the continent. Yeah, the current
Right. That's the point. Because tribes and
populations.
clans move back and forth. Absolutely. So they be thinking that they
But
got
it's
their
not race.
ancient DNA. Yeah, that's
That's the
not what
point.
test can do. Yeah,
Yeah,
test can't do that.
it's not race. Yeah, race has no biological reality. In biology, the word race is used as a synonym for the level below species,
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's just for the sake of conversation.
and that
Could,
that gets technical. Oh, we
could,
got brother
excuse me.
James.
Could,
James hasn't been heard. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I've been sitting here listening, and I'm always listening in on all the different channels because I'm a black brother too, and the way we've been programmed is to think by race, and
Mm-hmm.
that's all we
Yep.
know right now as a people.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking, you know, for us to try to get out of this hole that we're in, and how we got here, I don't think any of us completely know, but we kind of point fingers at the white, because of his racism. But I think as a people, we need to, in a way, come together. But the way that we come together is to become on one mindset, think similar, to believe in a similar fashion, and then being as one whole there, we can be an example for anybody if it's going to be the black African on the continent of Africa or wherever. But I think this individual approach, we're always going to have, just like religion, we're always going to have some difference. Everybody's got their own way of thinking. I think unity happens first in some form or fashion. Keep listening, but that's just something I wanted to interject for a long
You,
time, and I've
you
always did it in the chat to help somebody see that point.
well, I think you on to a very good point because that's a question that we need to formulate. What would be the means of us getting on the same page? Because here's what I always say, and people, it just goes like in one ear out the other. Whenever we, and I use the word we as well, whenever we use the word we to start off a sentence about taking action and doing this and doing that, we never define the we. And people don't really understand how powerful that is if we were to do it, and then how crazy it is when we don't do it. So although I said we like 8 times just now, we can't get around it. I just said, see, we can't get around it. But we is a first person plural pronoun that, and I'm not trying to get technical, but prior to us using pronouns in communication, you have to first establish its referent or its antecedent. So if I were to come on this panel and just say he went to the store, you would think I'm crazy. You'd be like, he who? Because he is a pronoun. It comes after I first establish the antecedent first or the referent. I have to say Bobby West went to the store first, and then from that point forward, I could say, yeah, he went to the store. He bought some bread. He bought some juice. He bought whatever. You know who I'm talking about. So when we say we need to unify. We need to do this. We need to do that. Well, who is the daggone we? You see what I'm saying?
Right,
We
Can I
we
right. I
we
qualify it?
understand.
we so no, but I'm saying all this because it supports your point, James. It supports, like, we have to find a way to define the we, and I'm gonna tell you, the most pronounced way to do it is through culture. all the elements of culture. Once we synchronize on that level, then we would have successfully defined the we, and that is called identity. We don't have an identity for real. We
Right.
have labels, but we don't have an actual identity here, and we won't even embrace an African American as an ethnicity. Here in the United States, we don't even really
Right.
embrace African American as an ethnic group, as a unique ethnic group that's different from like somebody brought up Jamaica earlier.
Me.
Jamaicans and African Americans, although we embrace one another, we are different ethnicities. Even if we ultimately come from the same parent group, just like the Igbo, Yoruba, the Kikuyu, and the Luo, and so on and so forth. And we need to embrace that. And until we do, we ain't going anywhere.
Yeah,
So I feel
you're
like
right,
we
Wu
can.
Jao.
I
Go
feel.
ahead. Bro.
I feel like. You know. I feel like we need to embrace. Like you said, to me, the label doesn't matter. But I feel like the strongest identity we can form uh, is not necessarily going to be culture per se, but to be able to recognize the Africans, if you believe in the, with the transatlantic slave trade and all that, to us to be able to recognize one another, the Africans in the diaspora, and then the Africans on the continent recognize that they are one people, and to have some type of nationalistic stance to understand that who we are actually, you know what I'm saying, like who we're fighting against, who's been fighting against us. I think that's what the red, black, and green is about. I think that's what Malcolm X was talking about when he was talking about black nationalism. And I think the small cultural differences is minute compared to what we need to do as a people. You know what I mean? We just need to be able to look at each other and be like, yeah, I know how y'all got here. We need to get on the same plane, even though we're in from places, because I believe that will make us stronger, that we are spread out, because we need something as big as the United States. And you said something about the United States not being a continent, but I would have to disagree. I understand that the United States is a continent and a country, or you call America the continent and then the United States the country, but that doesn't negate the fact that the Americas is the Americas and is ran by the West. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's the same thing. You know what I'm saying? But the point I'm making is to go against that, it has to be something big, and that's the only way that I can see it. And I don't really think we can like fight a war or nothing like that and really get at nobody in that case, but it's being all under the same, having the same agenda, and at least doing business with one another. You know what I mean? Practicing economics with each other.
Well,
Um,
listen, I'm just gonna say this from history. History it can teach us a lot. History has proven time and time again that the most potent way to define the we is by way of culture. That's the most potent way to define the we. That's the way it has always been done, and it's still done. It's still maintained to this day. That's it, because culture includes other elements. Like I'm saying, culture, but culture is an umbrella term. It includes language. It includes
Hello?
a list of things. Yeah, we can hear
Oh,
you.
you hear me? Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
it includes a list of things, and so it's by way of culture that we start to define the we. Because remember, human populations are defined on the basis of culture. Like if I name them like you have two distinct groups that could live in the same country. So you have different levels of identity. You have a national identity, which is a polity that you're a member of, a nation that you're a member of, and that is your nationality. But then you have a membership within an ethnic group, or tribe. Some people prefer the word tribe. So you have an ethnic group or a tribe, and you have multiple tribes or multiple ethnic groups that could be under the umbrella of a single nationality. Take Kenya, the Luo people, the Maasai people, the Kikuyu people, the Luya people, but they're all Kenyans. But they have distinct distinctions among them, and those distinctions reflect the unified, the unification that they have within the group. And then when you go to the next level up, they have the sameness on the national level. So they'll fly their flag. They'll be proud to be Kenya. They're proud of their country, and so on and so forth. So it's that process that we have to acknowledge. That's the only way.
How do you group
Whoa,
people?
whoa, whoa,
How
whoa,
do you
whoa.
group people across the water? Like, let's say, you know what I'm saying? That's fine whenever you have groups of people in close quarters. But whenever you're going across oceans, the cultural similarities can be big, or the differences, and people don't really jive. But I think we saying the same. I'm not. I didn't mean to like try to downgrade your point or nothing like that. But I was trying to add to what you were saying as far as just like culture. Yeah, people identify concerning culture, but on on a national level, there's no one cultural thing where a world of people can, you know what I'm saying? People in different countries can gravitate on a cultural level besides the diaspora type thing, which is a cultural
Well,
thing which fits in culture.
okay. Let me say
Get
it.
in after you, Wuja. Let me
Okay,
get in
yeah,
after
just
you.
okay, yeah, real quick, and then you go. So due diligence. Let me just make this clear. Culture is heavily dependent upon the needs of the people who are members of the culture. So when you introduce across the ocean and you introduce a large geographical territory, the odds of unifying a single culture over the larger the land gets and the more spread out the environments are, the harder it is going to be to have a single culture in that, because culture by definition is how a group of people is one of its elements, is how a group of people solve its problems within its environment. So if you look at an entire, let me use your term, the Americas, North America and South America have different issues to solve. Just based on just on a level of geography and temperature, where the equator is, and then you get too far north, it's different than whatever. So people are going to do
Language.
well. I'm not even going to mention language yet, but I'm saying people are going to solve different problems. If you live in Canada, which is part of the Americas, you're going to behave and have needs that people in South America near the equator are not going to have. So you're not going to have the same culture just by the natural environment itself. So we have to be realistic. So what I'm saying, culture, there's never going to be a single culture on the planet Earth. That right there, if anybody's thinking that, you are definitely in la la land, because culture is not even defined that way. You can't do that. You know what I'm saying? That's why certain animals are not found all over the globe. They live within the habitat and the environment in which they can thrive. Remember, the fundamental meaning of the word culture is an environment in which a living organism can thrive. That's its definition, core definition in biology, and it was borrowed from biology and brought over into the cultural anthropological studies in a figurative way. But that's the meaning, where a living organism can thrive. And so everything's not going to be in the same place on the earth. So you're never going to have one culture, one earthly culture. That's impossible. That's why, like I said, certain animals are
I'm
only
not
going to
arguing
thrive.
that.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is that, so we can't even talk about across the ocean like that either.
I
So
think
we
we
have
can.
no,
And we got to
because
That's
balance.
the what is the European Union on? What
Man,
You
is
feel
what is
me?
let
that
me.
You
based
feel
upon?
me?
Can I get in
We
next,
can.
man?
We
okay, yeah,
can.
yeah.
So I don't want to cut nobody off.
Yeah,
Speak.
yeah,
I'm on my best behavior. I'm on my
yeah,
best
go ahead.
behavior.
Yeah,
Come
go ahead.
on, man.
Okay,
I'm on
I
my
know
go
best
you
ahead.
want to get
behavior.
on me. You always gonna get on me. Come on.
Nah, I won't
Go
get
ahead.
on you. I'm saying that North America, right? The continent of North America. The United States is not a continent. You got three governments on the continent of North America. You got the Canadian government, you got the United States government, and you got the Mexican government, and they're not unified. I just want to make that point. And they had to fight a war to push Mexico all the way back. Okay. So it's lofty at best. Culture is king. Culture teach you who to do business with. So we need to, I always say we need to embrace our African Americanists, that doesn't push away the rest of Africa like everybody claim. That's nonsense. You got to know who you are first before you can start dealing with anybody. It's a bunch of malarkey. We got a large population that share nuance and similarities. If you embrace that, you got something cooking. You know, you got to fix home first before you fix abroad. It makes no sense. Yeah, we want to save the world, but our families be falling apart. It's a bunch of nonsense. Who taught us that? Who taught us not to embrace who we are right here, right now? We can embrace that. Once we embrace that, we got a lot going for us. We got more money than a lot of other people, that we can actually help other groups if we fix ourselves first. That's why the Jewish community, they're binded by culture, and their culture teach you, don't you be doing that anti-Semiticness. And they got their own terms and their own definition for being anti-Semitic. They don't care if you don't think it don't make no sense. You can say how you want to say it. Don't say it, because the culture tell you who to attack when they say this, and that. I'm saying we have the same capabilities. At times we do it. We unify. I was out there with my kids marching. We was all out there. The culture knew it was time to move. So if we just embrace that, if we can embrace that, right, fix things in our own community, the gang violence is bananas. So I refuse to try to fix somewhere else before I fix something that's here that my kids will be and can be potentially harmed by. So let's do that first before we unify Africa. How about unifying our own households, unifying our own communities? Let's do that first. So I'm not getting on you. I'm saying it don't even make sense. If you ain't fixed home, you can't fix nowhere else. It's gonna always fall apart.
Fully
That's
agree
right.
with that. And to add to just what he said and what Ang said and what Ujao said, because really you can't escape, that, having a culture first. Because even on a continent, I know what due diligence was saying. I don't think you're actually aware how, there's different layers of identification function on a continent, and they do function very well, where you have even not just tribe, you can go lower than that and go to clans and sub-clans and whatnot. But I'll just give you an example. Like, let's just say on a tribal level, like I'm Luo, right? So there are some times where it's just a problem that my small group of people might need to fix that doesn't involve other people in the country, right? So then we have, tools and mechanisms that we use to solve that particular tribal culture. If it goes lower to clans, there are tools put to solve the particular, problems for those particular group of people that are now made less. The distinction has become smaller. If we have a national problem, we have tools and mechanisms that we use as a government to solve Kenyan problem, not Ugandan problem, right? Now, when we have problems that affect people within the Eastern African part, let's just say now it's not just the country, but it's a small, it's a section of the continent. Not everybody else on the continent, but Kenyan people, Ugandan people, Sudan people, and whatnot. We have, organizations and tools and mechanisms set for that. So we have the East African Union, right? Now, if we have a problem that is greater than, that affects more than just that section of people and is affecting the whole continent, then we have tools and mechanisms that actually are set and put in place to help those, to help the whole people as a continent on that level, because that's problems that affect us as a continent. So the thing is, you always have to figure out what layer of identity you are in, and know how to function within those layers of identity. So it's not about having one and then that's just it, because nobody functions like that. You have Russia and Ukraine next door to each other. You would say these are the same people, but they're actually not the same people, because right now they're squabbling, right? And then so Russian people are looking for Russian, people interest. Ukrainian people are looking for Ukrainian people interest. You will say those people are all the same. They're East Europeans. You will not see people in Scandinavia being affected by Ukraine or Russia at this point, because they're like, hey, that's not us. We're in Scandinavia. You might say, oh, wait a minute, they're all white. No. But once a problem, they have the European Union that will solve a problem when it comes to affecting the whole European Union, just like we have African Union. So anywhere around the globe, as human nature, there's always levels of identity, and you can never, ever, ever function at a broad level of identity. It comes when it's useful. Let's say we're being attacked by aliens, then we will be like us Earthlings. So now it's the us as one, as people are all around, the planet Earth. But we haven't had that, so now we have different levels. But you always have to understand that you always have to understand at what layer are you maneuvering at, and it's always okay to have those different layers.
Right. So man,
Man, hold up,
that was a lot.
wait. Yeah, we got. Hey,
Dang, I
we
didn't have
got.
a chance to respond to none of that. You spoke,
No,
Unc
go ahead.
spoke, Steve spoke, and I can't respond to nothing. I just
No,
got
no,
to let
no.
y'all frame what I didn't say. But
Wait. Let me just. No, all I want to say, I'm gonna let you ride it out. All I want to say to everyone on the panel is that we have 15 minutes left. I have to hard stop at 12:30. That's all I want to say.
all right, so I didn't negate the fact that we need uh some 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 portion of culture in order to unify. What I said was we need to discard the minute differences. And I said that, and I felt like the way that Wujawu was framing it was on a smaller level that I would like. You know what I'm saying? And just from my perspective, but the brother asked the question, how can we reunite under one banner? And I was just proposing, you know, my giving my proposal. Now, if you guys think that we can't unite across the waters on some type of political stance, regardless of our cultural differences, or take some type of cultural political stance on identifying what the problem is on a nationalistic level that we all need to unify against, then that's y'all's position. And
That's
I
not
don't know if that's
that.
it.
No, then we are on the same page, because what I'm saying is that you can actually unify. My example of the unification I was telling you is that there are actually, when you go up the layer, those already in place and those function very well. It's just that you don't want to be functioning at the higher level, at the expense of the lower level, because nobody has done that. It's not something you can say this has worked in XYZ location or whatever, or groups of people, because that has never functioned. There's no way
Well, well,
that
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Hey, but wait.
Well, what?
Let me say this. Do this rock out, but we got Magi on just popped in, so I want to give everybody a chance to speak because I really have to do a hard stop at 12:30. So I just want to make sure everybody get a little time. But go ahead.
Yeah, I think we are in agreement. Just missing on the small details. But what you did say was people haven't really gained any process on the ride identity level. You know what I'm saying? And I beg to differ. You know, because I feel like the American identity is broad, the African identity is broad. Now, how much, how much they have gained in history is arbitrary. That's up to you. You know what I mean, and up to us. But there are broad identities. Like America is a very ambiguous broad identity.
Well, let me say this real quick to you, or ask you a question. when when you purchase a product or item from a store or whatever, online or not, and you have a problem with that item, you go to customer service, and then you start off at a low level. You may talk to a chat bot at first, like you buy something online, you go back to the website, you talking to a chat bot at first, then it'll escalate to a human, and then the human may be like, all right, well, I hear your grievance. Let me escalate to my technical team. And then the technical team may escalate it up higher to the administration or the manager. And so it's a life cycle of how to troubleshoot and solve problems that go from one level to the next. This is called a hierarchy. And the
Yeah, you
same thing
describing the hierarchy. How is that? Where am I missing that at? And what I explained, like how am I
no.
missing that?
What I'm saying, I'm not saying this to negate what you're saying. I'm
Hey,
I'm 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 trying to make it clear and in line with also with what Emiket was saying, because the way she said was the way she put it was really really good, because we have to be realistic, and this is what Uncle was saying too. We have to be granular first. Like I'm not saying you're doing it, but a lot of people try to start at the top. this bigger level of identity first. When we don't even have our stuff together on a granular level to even define the we. Like, you know what I'm saying? So like it's like our parents say, listen, if how you gonna help somebody and your health is failing? You know what I'm saying? How you gonna help somebody else when you sick too? So it's like we have to really slow it down and get the lower levels solid first and then build up. Cause that's the directional flow. You don't have a problem with a product and go straight to the owner of the company. Like you don't talk to Steve Jobs passed away, but Bill Gates, well, he don't even do Microsoft no more. I'm running out of examples, but y'all get what I mean. You don't run straight to the CEO of a company if you got a problem. You know what I'm saying? So likewise, culture is the same way. Culture is layers to identity. I mean, identity is the same way. So on the
That's right.
granular level, we have to get it together. And I'm not saying you're saying something different, but we really have to push and emphasize the order of operations. It's just like a mathematical problem. If you add before you supposed to divide and multiply, you're gonna get a wrong answer. So if we try to make moves and don't follow the right procedure, we're gonna end up being, stumbling ourselves. And that's what we've been doing for so long, because we never defined the we at the lower levels first. And that's all I want to say. And I'm gonna give everybody else a chance to rock out, because we got 9 minutes, and I just do a hard stop. I don't know if Magi, he's the new panel member. I don't know if he has any comments. I want to give him a chance to
Come on with it,
say something.
Magi.
I won't be able to contribute too much because I just tuned in too late. I just got out of my daughter's baseball game. But I do have a question as far as we concerned about growing our channels and our medias and all that stuff. Your channel's been doing wonderful, and I like that this is a place where I could actually come and get old school teachings. And so keep it up. But I do want to ask you, what's up with this hard cutoff time and shit? Like, what's up? I mean, excuse my language. I apologize. What's up with the hard cutoff time though? Like, I just don't get that. Let me see what's up with that.
Oh no, that's me. I got to wake up real early, and I'm pushing it already. I got to wake up like before the sun come up. No, it's me. It's me.
Oh, that's personal. Yeah, I thought you were saying this show goes off at 12:30, and that's that.
No. I gotta roll. That's me. So blame it on me.
This is the first time we gotta go early because this show is the last.
Yeah. Hey, listen. Trust me. Y'all know me. If I didn't have to be somewhere, man, please, we could rock out till.
You running from the Magi, Ujawu.
Nah, we see eye to eye. We see eye to eye. Matter of fact, Ujahu did some of the best teaching in the last. I'm telling y'all, I think Chief X really wanted to trick you into giving out free courses, bro. Yeah, because in the last like 72 to 96 hours, you've taught some of the best Egyptological grammarian type stuff that like. So I'm just giving you your props. I don't want to filibuster the last 10 minutes though.
No, I appreciate that. Especially coming from, because all of us, we all colleagues, man. So we all doing this thing. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely appreciate that. But anybody else get the mic.
I'm gonna close out. Well, I will definitely say what Chief X did was the gift and the curse. It got us riled up. But some good information came out of it. So it's kind of weird, but I kind of appreciate what he did, because he did really get a lot of we didn't get Jonathan's input. I don't know if he's gonna plan on doing something later, but I think
he got a video. He got a video. Him and Unc did a video, which really sparked the me chiming in. So they got a video. Check it out.
Where is this at?
Where was that at, Smash?
Well, it's probably, I think it was on the Pseudo Killers page. I think it was called Chief X has 24 hours.
Okay,
I don't know.
I seen that.
Yeah, that was it. It.
Okay, so this all stemmed from that.
Well, no, I'm saying
it was over with, back then. So
my part. I'm saying me jumping in stemmed from that basically, because I was like, man, Chief X trying to say that Jonathan put up a fake Photoshop picture. I'm like, man, come on. Nah.
But we've had this conversation since 2016.
Oh yeah. The subject matters. Oh yeah. Definitely. But back then it wasn't Chief X. We were talking
Yeah,
to some other.
it was somebody else. It's somebody new every year.
Yep.
I guess you might as well get used to it.
And Sean got all the lists. Sean be naming names. Yep. But anybody else got something? I apologize. I got to roll, y'all, but I got an obligation before the sun come up, and knowing me, boy, if I don't do a hard cut, I'm gonna be hurting in the morning. Y'all know how it goes.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the dialogue. I'm gonna go ahead and leave the room, but I guess y'all to do something tomorrow or something in a couple of days, and unless this is it. But
we keep the conversation going. On similar topics, we going it's gonna flow. Like I told people when I started this show just now, I said all these topics that I have, my intent is to weed out, filter out, because I'm looking for people who, like, I really appreciate this panel and all y'all came on the panel, the way we even had a conversation, the way everybody conducted themselves, the subject matter. We this is to me, this is what matters. We need to have more of these. It doesn't even have to be this channel. It could be any channel. I'll support whoever's doing it and chime in if I ever had time. Yeah, that's it. So I appreciate.
He going live. He doing the after party.
Who's that? Asar? Okay, yeah, there you go. So now everybody.
Okay, I'm going to
we'll slide over there.
The funny part, Ujahu, is you're gonna stay up listening to the after party and still be late.
Nah, hey, listen, hold on. Hey, listen. Listen, you read my mind, but at the same time you were saying it, I said, man, I can't even do it. That's why I said, man, because my first thought was to already pull up another tab, a browser window, and go to a Sauce channel right now. But I said, nope, if I do that, then I might as well stay live right now. It defeats the purpose. So yeah, y'all wrong for that. But I'm gonna check it out in the archive, man. But listen,
all right, peace, brother.
Okay. But hey, dude, doesn't appreciate it. Sean, Pan African, he rolled out, and then James. I think it's your first time coming on the panel, but I appreciate everybody coming on the panel. And Emmy Cat dropped the bomb with that those last statements, man. I think that needs to be like a clip because that really summed it up, and as far as that piece goes. But anyway, I appreciate everybody tuning in, and go check out if Asar was for real. Go to Asar's channel, and the after party, y'all could pick up where we left off. So definitely, man. So I'm just gonna say peace to everybody. And Amy, you got anything? Yes, no, maybe so.
Oh no, just to thank everybody that chimed in, and especially also the panelists. It's always good to have that, and definitely due diligence. I think we are on the same page.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just some things that needed to be cleared out on what you were saying. But yeah, thank you for watching, and yeah, hope to see you in the next conversation.
Yeah, due diligence, man. I know because I know a couple of times you think people trying to get on you. Oh, go ahead. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is my first time. I've always listened to the channels. That's a Saab. It's Garth, even Sinetta on and off. But I've always wanted to do this. He said hit the link, so something said hit the link, so I hit it, and I enjoyed myself, and hopefully I'll get a chance again. Thank you.
Yeah, I did, because you said something. That's why I said hop on, man, so we can get your perspective, because I do be seeing you comment a lot.
Yeah. Nah, this is a good panel.
Yeah, I got your book too, Sean.
Yep.
I know who you are.
Yeah, that's a well-written book.
All right, so listen, I really appreciate this was good. This is a good show. It went it's not lovely. All right, so I'm gonna say Shimmer Hotel, make sure you all chime on going over to Asar's channel and rock out, have fun. All right, so I'll see y'all tomorrow.
All right, good night.
Go live. Okay. Peace.
Peace.
Plato said that when you go to chemist school, you became more alert. You made wake up, your spirit wake up, and you became a more human being. That's your character is built in a school. to study what we call classical studies, we must know Netcher. You see, maybe in the future we need to know some Meroitic too. We need to know Netcher. So the most achievement in Kemet for me is education. The way they think, they build, and they practice their education is very unique in history. Without education, I believe there will be no Kemet.